What if some of that shit is so big? What if some of that shit is so big it can't be moved? Big, it can't be moved. Big. What if some of that shit is so big? What if some of that shit is so big it can't be moved? Big, it can't be moved. Big. In a country outside of the United States of America. Big. In a country outside of the United States of America. In a country outside of the United States of America. Big. In a country outside of the United States of America. Big. They're too bloody big. They're too bloody big. So big. They're too bloody big. They're too bloody big. They're too bloody big. They're too bloody big. So big. They're too bloody big. They're too bloody big. I know exactly where it is. I know exactly where it is. But it was bollocks big. But it was bollocks big.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. I don't know about your weekend, but I had a hell of a weekend. I spent some time at the new studio site. Everything is proceeding just slower than I would like, but that is the way of life. So lately I've been thinking that slow and steady wins the race. Just keep trucking ahead. Also made significant progress on our new set. Yesterday, I keep saying every week, I hope to debut it this week. We'll see what happens. We want to welcome all of you. Tonight we'll be doing a very special report on the people who are actively promoting, and some would say profiting from, in some cases, uh, alleged UFO whistleblower Dave Grush. And I use the term alleged UFO whistleblower because I'm of the opinion that if you won't provide evidence for your claims, you're not blowing the whistle. We have seen people like Edward Snowden in the past who provide a mountain of evidence along with what they're claiming. David Grusch so far has somebody told me, and I interviewed 40 people. And this is the kick the can game. When are we going to get to hear from those alleged 40 witnesses, firsthand witnesses to alien crash retrievals, perhaps even alien bodies? We did this series here on UFO whistleblowers of the past. We called it a not so brief history of UFO whistleblowers. We have parts 1 and 2 in our archive here. I am I had hoped to air it by now, busily creating a not so brief history of UFO crash retrievals. But before we do that, I thought this particular subject should jump the gun here as we evaluate the claims of a so-called whistleblower. Is it important that so many of the people associated with him, closely in some cases, so close he works for one of these people, should we understand that many of these people have made fantastical claims before and been involved in some very shady stories or attempts to generate money through promoting UFO stories, alien stories? Well, it would appear that we have direct connections in some cases between Mr. Grush and some of what I'm calling the shady bunch. These are people who have been actively promoting these stories, some to the tune of profits in the millions of dollars for many years. But one thing you'll find is that despite the incredibly sensational claims, despite the fantastical stories, most of these people, and again, all are either directly or indirectly associated with Mr. Grush, they don't come through with the evidence. Are we not? I have heard that we are the sum of our friend group. If you are hanging out with losers, you're not going to be very successful. But if you surround yourself with highly successful people, you have a better chance of being successful. So who has Mr. Grush surrounded himself with? I have been busily watching as the connections between Mr. Grush and well-known UFO profiteering hucksters has been revealed slowly. And one might ask themselves, wouldn't it have been a direct and more honest approach for Mr. Grush to introduce himself and to honestly say, I've been hanging out with all of these people at UFO conventions and Star Trek conventions, and they've been giving me information, some of which I have repeated in either my interviews or other public appearances. There was a few pieces in foreign news outlets, which is very curious considering he's, going after the United States for being transparent. Why would you not give interviews to people like, Stephen Greenstreet from the New York Post? In fact, he hung up on Stephen Greenstreet when Stephen Greenstreet called him and wanted to ask him some questions. This is very troubling, but I think that I have been saying this time and time again, through the lens of history, we should view fantastical claims. After all, I have been saying this for quite some time. History is indeed our greatest teacher. And I truly believe that. If we look at the history of all of these people that he's either working for, working with, perhaps providing information to, or they're providing information to him, as we evaluate those people, we might get a better understanding about what is likely to happen here. After all, if all of his close friends, associates, and coworkers have made absolutely fantastical claims about UFOs and aliens, and yet not proven those claims to be true or real with tangible evidence, I think that says a lot about Mr. Grush and how this story may indeed unfold. We want to take a moment to recognize the live chat and make sure you get a beverage. We have a lot of information to share with you tonight. We are going to be going over some history and providing perspective about some of the people that are very closely associated with Mr. Grush, or that Mr. Grush is working with or for, or yeah, we're going to get into it, friends. So tonight is a not so brief history of the people promoting David Grush. We can see Mr. Jeremy Corbel and Mr. George Knapp sitting directly behind him while he gives congressional testimony. Jeremy Corbel has claimed that he helped organize that hearing. And one might ask themselves, why is a so-called documentary filmmaker who has been promoting, in my view, fake stories for many years to the tune of millions of dollars, why is he allowed to organize a congressional hearing? What part did he have in that? And these are the list of characters we'll be covering tonight. If there is sufficient demand for it, we may do a part 2, because I want to be very clear. This is not all the people that are promoting David Grush. Other people are as well. But I thought that there's this common thread through Hal Putoff, Stanford Research Institute, and others included in his current circle of people. There's a direct thread from the Stanford Research Institute and CIA experiments into psychic spies, then on to the Bob Bigelow connection and the study of Skinwalker Ranch. Hal Putoff, Eric Davis, heavily connected to that. And of course, Jay Stratton, heavily connected to that. Someone, in my view and opinion, defrauded the United States government for $22 million to study poltergeist, werewolves, ghosts and goblins, as well as UFOs at Skinwalker Ranch. These are people that were directly involved in that. And in fact, Hal Putoff is one of the people who arranged for the sale of Skinwalker Ranch between former owner Bob Bigelow, who took that $22 million in a sweetheart no bid contract. Nobody bid. Nobody bid for that contract. They just gave Bob Bigelow $22 million to study his own ranch. And they came up with lots of reports of dino beavers and poltergeists and spooky stories, but no evidence. And of course, Hal Putoff and Eric Davis were directly involved with that, as was Jay Stratton. And of course, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbel both made, George Knapp made books, Jeremy Corbel a film about Skinwalker Ranch. There is a sort of profiteering motive and connection between all of these people who are surrounding Dave Grush right now and heavily promoting his story. I think that history matters. So we are going to get into it, friends. Before we do that, we want to welcome all the live chat members and people listening all over. We're currently on Rumble, Facebook Live. Welcome to the Twitch chatters. Welcome to the YouTube chatters. And the people watching on Twitter as well, or our Facebook Truth Seekers page. Welcome one and all. Maria Rose, I haven't been paying attention. I'm waiting for 10K. Congratulations to Truth Seekers for 8.82 subscribers. How can we get that number up to 9K? Good question. Yeah, and I'm sort of braced myself for low attendance tonight, because the truth is that the Shady Bunch, or the Grift Squad, all the people who are promoting and profiting from the stories of Dave Grush and this big hysteria that they have created, they don't want to hear the real and true history of all of these profiteering people. They don't want to hear it. So many people will choose to put their blinders on, put your thumbs in your ears. Oh, no, the aliens are real and Dave Grush is going to prove it. Even though he's hanging out with all these other guys that never proved anything, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear facts and evidence, Steve Cambian. Well, you know what? It's your loss. But we want to welcome those of you who want the full story of what is truly happening here, and we're going to break it all down for you tonight. So we're going to begin our journey with the story of one Harold Putoff, who some people have called the godfather of UFO and paranormal grifting. And I think that is an apt and an appropriate title to give Mr. Hal Putoff. After all, he has been involved in one form or another of sucking money away from both government and individuals, private businesses, anybody who will pay for wackadoo paranormal research. Harold Putoff is right there with his hand out. He was a part of SRI, Stanford Research Institute, and studied psychic spies and tried to develop remote viewing superheroes for the United States government. It's so stupid. Then he goes on to have a hand in the whole Skinwalker Ranch investigation that was a complete and total joke. And then on to TTSA, where somebody collected $3 million from investors before suddenly a bunch of people quit and nobody ever made any money on their $3 million worth of investment. I challenge you to find one person. What happened to all that money? Hal Putoff got some, didn't he? He got paid, right? Alzando got paid. You know who didn't get paid? The people who invested money in TTSA. And of course, there's a possible SEC investigation into that. We'll detail more for you, but let us begin with the journey and story of one Harold Putoff, known commonly as Hal Putoff. Hal Putoff is a controversial, what some people would call parapsychological researcher. But it's important when we get into him that we unravel the government funding he has sucked up, his CIA involvement, and perhaps financial shenanigans involved with some organizations that he directly profited from. We're going to delve into the enigmatic career of Hal Putoff. And we're going to talk about his involvement in controversial parapsychological research, particularly during his tenure at Stanford Research Institute. A lot of people don't know Stanford Research Institute is not directly connected to Stanford University, and myself and many other people believe that they use that name in order to project an air of academic and scholarly credibility, which is truly not there. Certainly, the people who were involved in it early had a connection, but those connections were severed. We're going to explore Mr. Hal Putoff's association with the government funding that he has always been there to get his hands on, including the CIA's interest in psychic research known as Project Stardate. We should also be sure to mention his collaboration with figures like Uri Geller, his extravagant expenditures on remote viewing and psychic phenomenon research. It's important to note that Mr. Putoff once declared Uri Geller's superpowers genuine and real. That's after getting a lot of government and I believe CIA funding to study Mr. Geller. It's important to note that Uri Geller would later admit at international conventions of stage magicians that what he did was use magic tricks. He had no psychic powers. And in fact, Uri Geller sold the secrets of how to do many of the tricks, some of which he used on Hal Putoff, to other magicians in a very expensive and lengthy course. Interestingly, Hal Putoff was fooled by Uri Geller with literal children's magic tricks. This is important in evaluating Mr. Putoff's discernment capabilities and his cognitive bias. How could a man that's so educated, a physicist, be fooled by children's magic tricks? But he was. and wasted how much government taxpayer dollars studying a guy doing children's magic tricks, then declared him to have real and genuine psychic superpowers. We should also mention his involvement with To the Stars Academy and highlight potential financial irregularities and the possibility of a Security and Exchange Commission investigation into To the Stars Academy. Hal Putoff is a physicist by training, and he gained prominence through his involvement in various unconventional and often controversial research endeavors, notably in the realm of parapsychology or psychic research. But we're going to aim to critically analyze Mr. Putoff's career and focus on his work with the Stanford Research Institute, as well as his collaboration with the CIA and other governmental agencies, and his financial dealings within the paranormal research community. Putoff's association with Stanford Research Institute marked a pivotal juncture at his career, in fact. And during his tenure at SRI, Putoff and his colleague Russell Targ received substantial funding from government sources, most notably from the Central Intelligence Agency. But I challenge you to go try to find out from the CIA how much was spent on psychic research. I've been unable to. If anyone knows any good sources for just how much money Stanford Research was paid by the United States government and the CIA, please do let me know at truthseekershow@gmail.com. And it's important to note that the CIA's involvement in psychic research, colloquially known as remote viewing, aimed to harness the purported abilities, supernatural abilities, of individuals like Uri Geller to gather intelligence for the United States government and, in some cases, spy on the Soviets. And one of the most controversial aspects of Putoff's career was his collaboration with Uri Geller, a self-proclaimed psychic and mental spoonbender. His association with Geller raised eyebrows within the scientific community due to the lack of empirical evidence supporting Geller's paranormal abilities. Despite this skepticism, Putoff and Geller worked together on projects that purportedly involved psychic phenomenon, contributing to the broader aura of the mystique surrounding Putoff's work. We also need to make sure that we recognize his extravagant expenditures on psychic research. His endeavors in the field of parapsychology were not only controversial, but also financially extravagant. Reports suggest that significant sums of government funding were allocated to psychic research, often yielding inconclusive or unverifiable results. Some critics argue that these resources could have been better utilized in other scientific pursuits, raising concerns about the responsible allocation of public funds and how Putoff's hands literally in the cookie jar of government funding for what some people would call nonsense. Also important to talk about his connection to Bob Bigelow and Skinwalker Ranch, because Putoff's later involvement with entrepreneur Bob Bigelow and the infamous Skinwalker Ranch further fueled skepticism surrounding his research. And the collaboration aimed to study paranormal phenomena, including UFO sightings and alleged encounters with otherworldly entities, which included werewolves. Critics contend that Putoff's association with Bigelow and the sensational nature of the research undermined the scientific rigor that should have been maintained. I think it's important that we recognize that Mr. Putoff has been taking money, and what has he proven? Decades and decades, Mr. Hal Putoff has been taking money, both from government sources, CIA sources, private individuals. Hey, if you want to study psychics, get out your wallet. It's going to cost you, but Hal Putoff will be right there to do that work. So next, we have to mention his association and employment with To the Stars Academy, and perhaps some financial shenanigans involved with that. Because Putoff's involvement with To the Stars Academy, an organization which was founded by former Blink-182 rock star Tom DeLonge, it brought further attention to his questionable research practices. After all, To the Stars Academy made many, many ridiculous claims, including having perhaps alien technology in their possession, and also promising that they were going to build a revolutionary spaceship, or excuse me, a spaceship with a, quote, revolutionary power source that would change the world, unquote, and later delivering nothing. Mr. Putoff was also, for a time, I think, associated with or connected to the Joe Firmage free energy and anti-gravity scam, which some investors on the record, Skinwalker Ranch new owner Brandon Fugel invested millions of dollars and then found out that it didn't work. Nothing worked. But back to the Stars Academy, concerns have emerged regarding the transparency of financial transactions and the allocations of funds that were all solicited from public donations. People want to know what happened to the money and the allocation of the funds within the organization. Who was paid what? No one, to the best of my knowledge, will answer any questions about where the money went, who spent it, how much each member of the organization To the Stars Academy was paid. It gets shady very quickly. And of course, we've learned through recent reporting by Art Levine that there is a potential SEC investigation. While scrutiny mounted about To the Stars Academy, there has been speculation about a potential Securities and Exchange Commission investigation into To the Stars Academy for potential misconduct or even fraud, perhaps. And there has been claims of a previous SEC investigation which did not go forward. And the current claim is that there is a current complaint and investigation by the SEC into To the Stars Academy. And critics like me, quite honestly, argue that Putoff's association with To the Stars Academy, along with his history of controversial research and let's just call it paranormal profiteering, I believe that warrants a thorough examination of any organization he is a part of's practices, especially when it comes to financial matters. Hal Putoff's career has been marked by his controversial research, by lots of government funding and questionable financial dealings. His collaboration with figures like Uri Geller, involvement with To the Stars Academy, and other pseudoscience investment opportunities, like his own company. He wants investment capital for his company that investigates wacky stuff. And also, certainly, his association with Skinwalker Ranch have raised concerns within the scientific community and beyond. While Putoff's contributions to various fields and fields of research cannot be entirely dismissed, the shadow of the controversy around him and what some may call financial shenanigans for some things he's been a part of casts a very skeptical light on his history. I believe that further investigation and critical analysis are essential to fully understand the implications of Putoff's work and his perhaps influence on David Grusch. We have seen that Mr. Grush has been talking about some things that Hal Putoff wrote papers on. I don't think that's a coincidence. We have also seen that Mr. Grush is directly connected to one Eric Davis, who worked for Mr. Hal Putoff multiple times through various different agencies. I don't think this is a coincidence. And why is it that all the TTSA profiteers who ran that thing into the ground, some would say, are all right around Grush looking for another payday off of the paranormal? I don't think that is a coincidence either. And so our next contestant here is, we're going to go, let me check here. Dr. Eric Davis. He's the next contestant on the Shady Bunch game. Dr. Eric Davis directly mentions Mr. Grush before Mr. Grush became public, and even claimed that David Grush was basing some of his opinions on projects that Eric Davis has been a part of. Certainly, also, Mr. Davis has been a controversial figure who's made many, some would say, out of this world. Others would say incredibly fantastical claims of alien back engineering program and things recovered. He famously made a statement 3 years ago in a New York Times article claiming the government was in possession of alien technology. And to this day, Mr. Davis has not proven any of his claims or provided any evidence for these very, very bold and fantastical claims. He has also been involved in the so-called Wilson Davis notes, but won't talk about them. It's top secret. The Davis Wilson notes are a joke to me. When the primary actor in the notes comes out and says, these are a work of fiction. I may know Eric Davis. I may have met him, but I wouldn't know him to see him. You know that the story is fake. And of course, that story was promoted by many of the same people on our list tonight. And of course, many profited from that story. It's a big UFO circle jerk. That's what it is. Here's a shot of Eric Davis, if anybody is unaware. Interestingly, Mr. Davis is another person directly connected to Dave Grusch, even claiming that Dave Grusch is basing some of what he's saying off of programs that he's been a part of, but he can't talk about it. It's all top secret. You ever notice that? Oh yeah, the aliens are definitely here, and I worked on the program, but I can't speak directly about that. It's all classified. It's this game of kick the can, right? When you ask these people for evidence of their claims, they make excuses. They don't deliver. They have a history of not delivering. So as far as Eric Davis, will unveil some of his controversial claims and speculative research in the realm of alien technology and the paranormal. We'll delve into his work and assertions made by Dr. Eric Davis, a researcher known for his association with Dr. Hal Putoff, and his controversial claims. Eric Davis gained attention in both scientific and public spheres for his involvement in various speculative research areas, particularly those related to wormholes and advanced theoretical propulsion. He's a physicist. Some of his claims have been related to extraterrestrial technology and paranormal phenomenon. He famously said that people don't understand UFOs because poltergeists are always associated with UFOs. That's right. UFOs have some connection to ghosts. What is his evidence for that? A ghost followed him home from Skinwalker Ranch. This is the quality of the wackadoos that are surrounding David Grusch. And, my aim is to just critically assess, maybe help you guys think through this. We have to critically assess and work our way through the controversial claims put forth by Dr. Davis. And there have been many claims of aliens and alien technologies and crash retrieval programs. What evidence has he provided? None. We can try and examine the evidence, but he doesn't have any. He has stories. And we can try and examine the implications of his assertions and claims. One of the most notable aspects of Dr. Davis' work is his claim that the U.S. government has been engaged in a crash retrieval program and has retrieved alien technology, craft not of this earth. He suggests that certain advanced technologies, including propulsion systems and energy sources, have been derived from extraterrestrial sources. This assertion, of course, is controversial due to the lack of verifiable evidence that he presents and the speculative nature of his claims. Until he provides evidence of these huge claims, they are nothing more than speculation. Similarly, Dr. Davis' investigation into poltergeist phenomenon has been met with skepticism as his reported findings remain largely anecdotal. He's got stories, anecdotes. Those are stories, anecdotal evidence. Well, Poltergeist followed me home from Skinwalker Ranch after we saw an alien spaceship. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you get the idea. Then, of course, we get to something that I feel very strongly about, and that is the Wilson Davis notes. All the Wilson Davis notes that you need to know is that according to notes written by Eric Davis, Dr. Stephen Greer, a known UFO profiteer, had a meeting with Admiral Tom Wilson and Edgar Mitchell. The only reason he got the meeting is because Admiral Tom Wilson was being respectful to Edgar Mitchell, a former astronaut. And in that meeting, Dr. Stephen Greer gave this admiral a completely and totally 100% fake top secret document called the NRO document. And in that document, there was claims of alien crash retrievals. And by the way, it's important to note, it was a completely and totally fake document. But if you believe the claims of Eric Davis and others, Dr. Stephen Greer and others who have promoted and profited from these notes, a decorated Navy admiral just jumped to go investigate for 6 months or months claims of top secret projects involving alien technology. And the catalyst for him to jump and do that was a completely and totally fake document. But a decorated Navy admiral was too stupid to know that that document wasn't real. This is absolutely ridiculous and stupid. A Navy admiral has an entire staff. If somebody gave him a document purporting to be a top secret document, the first thing he would do is give it to his staff and have them verify and authenticate that it was a real document. But this decorated Navy admiral didn't do that. Instead, he went on a wild goose chase looking for aliens and crash retrieval programs for months and was denied access. The admiral involved in what I believe is a grift or, a fake story here to make money, he denied knowing Eric Davis. He said, well, I may have met him. I wouldn't know him from seeing him. Well, I sure didn't talk about aliens. These are a work of fiction. These notes are a work of fiction. And, there's a real problem with UFO grifters being willing to just destroy somebody's reputation and call a decorated Navy admiral a liar so that they could, get some kind of clout. Like, oh, I had a meeting with this guy and he looked for the alien crash retrieval programs, didn't find them. To be fair, the Davis notes, which detail this Admiral Tom Wilson's alleged attempt to investigate programs related to the back engineering of alien technology, has sparked intrigue and a great deal of controversy and debate within the UFO community. However, the authenticity and veracity of those notes remain contentious. Eric Davis has now more or less admitted he wrote them, but we still got the main actor involved in the notes saying, I didn't have a meeting with this guy. These are a work of fiction. And the lack of actual verifiable evidence surrounding these notes casts major doubt on the legitimacy of these claims. Next, we get to Dr. Eric Davis' statements to the New York Times and his speculative research, because Dr. Davis' statements to the New York Times regarded encounters between Navy pilots and unidentified aerial phenomenon, and that got widespread attention. He sort of came along for the TTSA ride, right? Again, a direct connection to TTSA. And while his insights into so-called potential technological advancements remain thought-provoking, he wrote some speculative papers on wormholes and how could aliens get here from there and stargates and things like that. And by the way, the Air Force called his research crackpot research in a newspaper article. This man has been called a crackpot by one arm of our government, while at the same time, other arms of our government are somehow hiring him to do things, right? And again, money plays an important part in Dr. Eric Davis' promotion of alien and exotic technology. Dr. Davis' forays into topics like black holes, stargates, and faster-than-light travel do raise some eyebrows within the scientific community. After all, speculation is a part of science. But without detailed experiments to prove any of his theoretical physics, they're more stories, anecdotes. And these subjects often fall outside the bounds of established scientific paradigms, even cutting-edge research. Dr. Davis' involvement with paranormal research, including poltergeist investigations, Skinwalker Ranch, and other claims, add a layer of complexity to his scientific credibility. I think we have to view things through a total lens. It's a lack of empirical data and reliance on, again, anecdotal accounts hinder the rigorous evaluation of his claims. I would argue that Dr. Davis' willingness to explore unconventional topics may compromise the scientific rigor required for a real or meaningful investigation into whether his claims are real and true and factual or just wackadoo stories. His work in the realms of alien technology, paranormal phenomenon, and speculative physics presents a perplexing conundrum for public discourse. After all, how can we take him as credible if he's talking about ghosts following him home from a spooky ranch in the form of Skinwalker Ranch? While his contributions, I recognize, to theoretical physics and unconventional research are not without merit, the lack of evidence and speculative nature of his claims warrant more critical scrutiny. Remember that Dr. Eric Davis is one of the people that apparently is feeding information to Dave Grush, or was feeding him information before he began making these claims. Here we have Dr. Davis, who made these claims of the government being in possession of non-human technology 3 years ago, and also being involved in this notes that many people, these Davis Wilson notes that many people believe are just another story to make UFO dollars. Again, all unproven claims. It's been years since he made the claim to the New York Times. Where is the evidence? Next, of course, we get to one Louise Alzando. But before we do that, we'll check in with the live chat. Good to see so many people here. We have great turnout tonight. If you're just joining us, you are watching or listening to Truth Seekers, and we are going over the not so brief history of the people promoting Dave Grush and his stories. Next, of course, we get to Lou Alzando, who should be no stranger to this show. Everybody knows how I feel about him. Oh, before we do that, let me go over back to I had something to share from Stephen Greenstreet about Mr. Davis, and I think is important. So we'll get that going. 1 second. Oh, and before we do that, I'm going to share two things. Before we get too far in the weeds, I apologize. My notes are a mess here. The Soul Foundation for Advanced Studies is likely a reference to the legendary Institute for Advanced Studies. So here is another connection to Hal Putoff, the agent of record for the nonprofit of Nolan that Grush is part of, and their registered patent is listed as Ignite. Ignite has their senior VP and chief strategy officer listed as Joseph Denoto, a known associate of Lou Alzando. So there's all these connections. Dave Grush is working for Gary Nolan. UFO or Whistleblower states he is currently the COO of the Soul Foundation. Also part of Soul Foundation is Christopher Mellon and Gary Nolan. By the way, I left Mr. Mellon out. We ran out of space on the thumbnail. He's another person who is promoting Mr. Grush's claims, again, without evidence. All these people are promoting his claims, telling us, oh, the evidence, he's got plenty of evidence. It's been months. Where is the evidence? Are we just going to kick the can until we finally give up and go, oh, he doesn't have any evidence. He's got stories from wackadoos like Hal Putoff and Eric Davis, lifelong wackadoos. 1 second here. Now, I had the, Earth Tech is also Hal Putoff's company, and Eric Davis works there. So there's all of these connections, right? And I am going to share my screen. Here's Mr. Eric Davis talking about, well, we'll see in a moment.
We're pressed for time. Tell me about the Admiral Wilson transcript.
I can't discuss that.
You can't discuss.
I'm not at liberty to discuss it.
He's not at liberty to discuss it. His names are all over it. Why would he not confirm or deny that he wrote those notes until years later? It's because of the kick the can game, friends. You give as little evidence as you have to promote the mystery and make all the money, and you don't give details until you're forced to.
Because you're all over the.
Oh, I know.
All over it.
Yeah. They were leaked out of Ed Mitchell's estate. And there's nothing I can say about it.
There's nothing he can say about it. It's all top secret. But yet, the DOD cleared David Grusch to talk about alien bodies and UFO crash retrieval programs, which by definition means that those things are not classified. So why can't Eric Davis talk about it? Is it because this was a big bluff and he knows the story is fake and he doesn't want to give any more details? This is where we really get into the weeds with some of this stuff. But it's enough to say that these people who are all closely associated with Grush, and some of which are promoting or profiting from his stories, have been doing this for years and never proving anything. So maybe, just maybe, we need to temper expectations, right? It may be important to temper expectations. And then we get to Mr. Louise Alzando, who has ran an imaginary Pentagon UFO program in the land of make-believe that was funded to $22 million. And it was a secret program, and he was the director of it. All of these details were given in a New York Times article some years ago, and that all turned out to be factually inaccurate. Later, Mr. Alzando would have to admit in his own statement to the Inspector General when he was complaining, he was complaining like, I'm trying to pretend I'm running a UFO program or that I did for the government, and you people are saying that ain't true. In that complaint, he had to admit that this program he claimed he run was not a program. It was an activity, an unfunded activity that he did in his spare time, and he had no direct responsibility for the Pentagon actually dealing with UFOs. How much money has Alzando made? And in my view, he should give it all back. If he can't prove that he was all the things he claimed when he took the TV show deal, the TTSA money deal, the book deal, maybe he should have to give all that money back unless he can prove the original claims he made to the New York Times. After all, Mr. Alzando was the primary source of that article. So if he didn't lie to them about what he did for the Pentagon, who lied to them? These are important things. And of course, we also have Brian Bender, who claims that Mr. Alzando has groomed Dave Grusch for his new role as a so-called whistleblower. Great. So we have somebody who lied to the New York Times, manipulated all the information so that he could get TV show deals and documentary deals and book deals and speaking fees. We have that guy teaching the new guy how to do that. Is that what's going on here? Lou Alzando has been a central figure in the UFO community, I think unfairly, for years. After all, his original story is a complete and total lie. And he's known for his claims about a $22 million secret Pentagon UFO program, the existence perhaps of extraterrestrial beings, and his involvement with organizations like To the Stars Academy. He's made some incredibly controversial statements in public, never proven anything. And then there is his alleged use of sock puppet accounts, his manipulation of the UFO community, financial gains from TV show deals, speaking engagement, book deals, money from To the Stars Academy. Nobody knows how much he got from To the Stars Academy, but I guarantee that he made more money off of To the Stars Academy than any of their investors did. And maybe the SEC investigation will force him to disclose how much of that money raised for TTSA was he paid? There is we're going to be talking about scrutiny when it comes to Mr. Alzando. He's the guy grooming the new guy. We have to scrutinize him and his previous claims. Lou Alzando did capture the imagination of UFO enthusiasts and some members of the wider public with his bold assertions about UFOs and extraterrestrial phenomenon. But of course, we have to highlight his false claims of a $22 million secret Pentagon UFO program he was the director of, because that's one of the most contested aspects of Alzando's narrative, is his assertion of having run a $22 million Pentagon UFO program that he was the director of. Skepticism has arisen over the lack of concrete evidence substantiating this claim. And don't anybody show me the Harry Reid letter, because Harry Reid is the person who many people believe is responsible for taking $22 million of taxpayer money to fund a ghost hunt, okay? He's not a credible source. That's the only source that says Alzando wasn't lying to the New York Times and that he really ran a program called that. The Pentagon has made repeated statements that Mr. Alzando had no assigned responsibilities with the Pentagon around UFOs. If the program was real, they would not do that. So there's a lack of concrete evidence to substantiate his original claims. And where is the explanation? Is this claims going to change now? Oh, well, I did that in my spare time. I didn't really have $22 million program, and I wasn't the director of that program, because that would imply that was a full-time job for me at the Pentagon, and the Pentagon said that wasn't my job. There is no concrete evidence substantiating this claim unless you accept the the wackadoo prover maneuver, when one wackadoo who's on the take for UFOs and aliens making money for them and their friends substantiates the claim of another UFO profiteering whore. There is a severe discrepancy between Alzando's portrayal and official statements from the Pentagon. Alzando's assertion that some unidentified flying objects may have extraterrestrial origins has garnered both fascination and skepticism. Some critics, like myself, point to the absence of empirical proof supporting his claims or actual evidence. Again, what do we get? Stories. Are we getting the theme here now? This is what you get from all these people. You get stories. But those stories, even though they're purported to be true, the proof that they are true never seems to materialize. And in fact, the stories fall apart sometimes over time and under scrutiny. The assertion that humans are not alone in the universe raises questions about the level of evidence required to make such extraordinary claims. And then, of course, there's the controversial use of sock puppet accounts. Mr. Alzando apparently or allegedly used anonymous social media accounts or sock puppets to attack his critics. And that certainly raises ethical concerns about Mr. Alzando's true motives and the nature of his, let's just say, moral compass or lack of one. After all, why does he need to hide behind fake accounts and attack critics? And while we're on that subject, according to a witness, Mr. Alzando directed some people to go and attack his critics on the internet, defend his honor and his family's honor. And they did. Doxing people, threatening people, intimidating people, harassing people. I have been a victim of that, and so has my family. Mr. Alzando, coward that he is, has still yet to address the allegations made against him concerning purposefully and willfully directing people to attack people critical of his stories and his narratives. His manipulation of the UFO community and his intelligence training also should be mentioned. He famously, after all, said, "I'm a counterintelligence agent. That's what I do." And in 2008, I was asked to apply those skills to the UFO community. Many people claim that Alzando employs his intelligence background to manipulate members of the UFO community. to attack his online critics, and that certainly highlights the potential misuse of his government intelligence training. The alleged exploitation of trust within the UFO community raises questions about his ethical responsibilities and the ethical responsibilities he has with making extraordinary claims with no verifiable evidence or proof. Again, anecdotes and stories. Then we get to Mr. Alzando's financial gains from media deals and book engagements. And let's not forget TTSA, which many have called a techno scam. Reports of Alzando securing television show deals, speaking fees, and book deals based on unverified or exaggerated claims underscore the commercialization of his UFO for profit narrative. His pursuit of financial gains through sensationalism may compromise the credibility of his assertions and intentions. At least they would to most rational people. And then, of course, one of his most controversial things, and again, none of the things I'm being critical of him will he actually talk about or accept questions about. Why not? These are questions that demand answers, Mr. Alzando. And if you're too cowardly to answer the questions, I'm just going to keep asking them until you do. One of his most controversial associations was with To the Stars Academy, which may be under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission for some form of financial irregularities or fraud. Alzando's involvement, and that's alleged, Alzando's involvement with To the Stars Academy, which raised by some accounts, $3 million from investors with promises of revolutionary technology, has drawn an incredible amount of scrutiny. The lack of substantiated progress and transparency of that organization raises concerns about the accountability of organizations in the UFO research field, and especially raises concerns about Mr. Alzando's lack of moral compass, or alleged lack of moral compass. Lou Alzando's claims and activities within the UFO community present a very complex web of deception, lies by omission, exaggeration, intrigue, speculation, with no skepticism involved. While his contributions to the public discourse about UFOs is recognized, the lack of evidence, allegations of him being so manipulative with people, and his constant need for financial gains derived from UFOs and from his unproven or exaggerated claims, all these things call for a cautious and critical evaluation of his assertions. And as the UFO phenomenon continues to captivate the public interest, Lou Alzando is not doing any good with deceptive, exaggerated claims and a lack of substantial and supportive evidence to back up those extraordinary claims. All right, next, we'll check back in with the live chat. If you're just joining us tonight, you're watching Truth Seekers, and we are presenting a not-so-brief history of the people who are promoting David Grusch, alleged UFO whistleblower. Next, we're going to get into but before we do, Mr. Alzando's book may not be coming out this summer, and has been pushed back, to my knowledge, several times from a scheduled publish date. Could it be Mr. Alzando's original narrative collapsing down like the house of cards of exaggerations, half-truths, and lies by omission it was built on have anything to do with his book not being published when it was supposed to? Are they just trying to wait it out? We call that the Cosmic Con Shuffle. When you really get caught lying about something, you got to go away for a little while, right? Do the Cosmic Con Shuffle, and then you come back with brand new stories you're not going to prove. Just like the last stories that you said that you didn't ever prove. Here's him making some pretty bold claims. And of course, any show that has disclosure in the title is a shit show of misinformation, disinformation, half-truths, lies, fairy tales, and delusions. Don't watch any show with disclosure in the title,
I'd like to switch this round and first of all start off by congratulating you on the recent announcement that you're bringing out a book.
Oh, yeah. It's a recent announcement. Oh, wait a second. Let me fix this here. And we're going to put our fair use banner up as well. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public and giving you a breakdown of all of the history of some of these, the people I'm calling the Shady Bunch. We're bringing you their history. This is a fair use of this material. We'll be discussing and critiquing the video we're sharing. We're also using this video to educate the public about people making extraordinary claims surrounding UFOs and aliens.
So congratulations on that. Now,
thank you.
A lot of people saw this headline article within the Hollywood Reporter that the book will reveal shocking details. And now we all know what people on social media like. A lot are speculating and making claims that it's a pay for disclosure tactic, which of course they're going to. Can you just set the record straight, please?
Yeah. Shocking, right? Why would he wait with the evidence until he had a book deal if he really cared about disclosure? Why doesn't he just drop the evidence, right? It's always, everything these guys do is profit driven. We heard details of Mr. Grush beginning to say something, talk about a certain thing to the Canadian member of parliament he met with the week of May 15th. Ross Colthart cautioned him, no, we have to save that for the documentary, right? It's always about the payoff. Where's the payoff? They for disclosure people, they sure don't disclose much, right? Not until the floodgates of UFO cash open for them.
And so we can...
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what I'll say is that I'm writing the book. Second of all is that the intended audience is for a lot of people that have never even gone onto UFO Twitter. You know, what I will say, and I won't go into many more detail than this, is that the purpose of the book is going to be very, very apparent when it comes out. And I think people who know me are going to be like, that clever guy. People who don't know me are going to probably wind up having to eat some of their words. You know, it's funny to watch social media and people go way out on a limb and start making speculation, wild speculation. It's a migrant. But when the book comes out and people really go, they read it and go, holy crap, this makes sense. Now we understand why you did the way you did it when you did it.
Yeah, it is a money grab. And you know what else was a money grab? His television show, which proved nothing. You know what else was a money grab? TTSA, which proved nothing. $3 million people invested in that company. They got nothing back, but he made money. Tom DeLonge and his sister made money. Hal Putoff made money. I believe Gary Nolan may have made money, right? And other people involved in TTSA like Christopher Mellon, they all made money. What about the investors that were left holding the bag and never got anything for the money they gave these clowns? Will they apologize? No. They'll just, they'll go hide in the little deep dark corners of Twitterverse. Yeah, he's got bombshells, but he's been waiting all this time for the book deal to drop the evidence, right? So that the TV show money grab, that wasn't good enough money grab for him to drop the evidence, right? The TTSA money grab, that wasn't a big enough money grab for him to drop any evidence. The speaking fees that he's gotten to speak at conferences or live events or whatever, that wasn't enough money for him to drop the evidence he's been holding all this time. But somehow the book is going to be where he's going to drop the evidence. Sure. He's waited 8 years to drop evidence, right? Is it 8 years? 7 or 8 years he's waited to drop his evidence.
And maybe change their name or something.
And by the way, we've seen some of the evidence he dropped on national television. Wasn't it when he was on the Fox News network, he claimed that recently CIA documents confirmed alien stuff, and it turned out to be they were disclosed like 30 years prior, and they were unproven claims, great documents, but, he gets things wrong constantly. He can't even evaluate stories. He's behind the push of Grush talking about the Italian UFO case. And oh boy, we're going to detail that for you. The only evidence of that is some documents many people claim are forged documents. And the story got added on to, and people keep adding on to it. And a UFO grifter involved in the Trinity hoax was involved in that as well. And the Trinity hoax is a proven hoax now. You know, this is not a guy who's good at like digging up real information. He's a guy who's good at recycling stupid stories that weren't proven the first time they were sold, trying to repackage it and resell them, just like TTSA did with Art's Parts. Remember that? Oh, we'll get into it.
But I'm used to it. You know, for the last 3-4 years, I've been used to people always accusing me of one thing. They're never happy, no matter what you do for them, no matter how you do it. You know,
I'd be happy if you actually provided evidence of your claims instead of filling your pockets with UFO dough constantly, right? You know, like at some point, don't you have to say, like, listen, you need to prove the shit you were talking about 5 years ago was true before you come out with new stuff you're claiming is true and want more money. Like the greed of these people, they are insatiably greedy, all of them.
You've just got people that are sharpshooting you. They're throwing rocks. I don't know why that is. It's sad.
Yeah.
You know, I really hope that.
Yeah. Asking for evidence is throwing rocks and attacking them, right? That's how you know that this man suffers from a delusion-based belief system, because he cannot withstand critical thinking people asking him questions. And he's such a coward that he went on no shows that asked hard questions, right? Well, with the possible exception of UCR, and we saw how that turned out, right? One hard question, the guy melted, started talking about somebody's mother being a hooker, right? What if I called your mother a hooker? Ridiculous, cowardly.
Those type of people find whatever
profit-driven clown
they're looking for. You know, but if there's one thing, you know, my track record speaks for itself.
Yeah, your track record of, let's see, deception, half-truths, and money grabs. Your track record of half-truths, deception, false information given to reporters, false information given to members of the media at some of your media appearances, your constant money grabs and need for the UFO community to pay your bills for the past 8 years. Yeah, that track record is clearly established. But you know what he doesn't have a track record for? Coming with any evidence. No evidence. No, just stories, more stories.
People should know me now at this point that I'm not a money grab kind of guy. I do think very deliberate.
Yeah, because people who aren't money grab guys don't go after television show deals. By the way, he tried to go after another television show deal with HBO with Jeremy McGowan and UAPX. That didn't work out for him. People who are not interested in money grabs don't go out looking for book deals, speaking fees, salaried positions with startups that claim they're going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that'll change the world, and accept money from investors that never get any of their money back. Does that sound like somebody's not interested in money grabs to you?
Really, very strategically. And again, I think the book is going to serve a very specific purpose. And I think people are going to be delighted when it comes out. You know, that's where we are with that. I'm not going to go into much more detail than that.
Yeah, you got to buy the book before he'll give you any details. He's got to get the money before you hear any of the information. Because this way, you know, buyer's remorse, buyer beware, no refunds, right? If you give him the $20 for the book and it's just more stories, he's already got your $20. He doesn't care what you think.
But I think it's going to be very, very eye-opening. And I think people are going to come back and say, holy cow, wow, that was exactly the way to do it. And by the way, it's my narrative. So, you know, when I sit there and I
it's my narrative,
do an interview on a like a major news media, these are like 2 to 3 minute sound bites.
Yeah.
And it's not it. And by the way, I don't control their editing. This is
blame those people for things that you've said that you've never provided evidence for. It's the editor's fault. It's totally the editor's fault, friends. It has nothing to do with him. And remember, Dave Grusch is making claims of recovered alien technology. Dave Grusch is also making claims of materials in the possession of the United States government. That purportedly comes from aliens, but we have to remember that Louise Alzando made all those claims before with TTSA years ago. Then they collected $3 million and didn't prove shit. They didn't prove any of this. All of this has happened before, and it will all happen again, friends. But let's rewind a few years and see some of the fantastic claims of alien technology being made, right? We forget, right? The Atom Research Project. Oh, we got a whole warehouse, right? We got a whole warehouse, and we're going to fill it with alien crash retrievals and UAP crash retrieval technology. And all they had was Art's parts. Long debunked garbage story from Linda Moulton Howe that even Art Bell said was nonsense.
Well, yeah, when I reflect upon what we've been able to accomplish, I sit here and kind of go, yay, and think,
Steve Justice, Mr. CIA, yeah.
because the expectations.
Oh, look, that's Hal Putoff making claims of material in possession for the Atom Research Project, which may be alien, right?
Are huge. When the expectations.
We've got Hal Putoff, Steve Justice, Lou Alzando, all making these claims before that Dave Grusch is making now.
Are extremely high.
Who might his sources be for his adamant belief that the United States government has crash retrieval programs and recovered technology that may come from non-human entities? All of this was claimed before while they were doing the TTSA money grab. Is this just TTSA 2.0 money grab?
Performance has to follow. And so performing is key to me now.
We have multiple samples now from multiple sources, ranging a wide variety of integrity. Even if the material goes nowhere, people are beginning to provide us things.
Wow, that is.
Did they prove that any of these things were alien? Did I miss the memo? Did I miss the New York Times article? Did I miss the major media announcing verifiable evidence and proof of extraterrestrial visitation in the hands of Louise Alzando, Hal Putoff, Gary Nolan, and other members of To the Stars Academy? Did I miss it? Did they ever prove these claims? These same claims are being made now, but on a grander scale. Welcome to TTSA 2.0, friends.
More brilliant than I thought.
And the money grab is going to follow this. The likes of this money grab coming up is going to be like nothing we've ever seen before. I think it could reach 20, 30, 50 million dollars, the money that will be generated from this delusional escapade.
What's different about the activity that we have going versus, quote, the field out there is that the field out there is...
Yeah, this is the president of Science and Technology. The guy that thought that Uri Geller's children's magic tricks really were superpowers, real superpowers. And by the way, let's not forget that Mr. Elizondo has made claims of having superpowers himself. Do we see the wackiness here and how the wackadoo comes forth when you start scrutinizing claims made by these people? And I mean claims besides aliens. You mean aliens isn't enough? Let's throw some superpowers in there. To make this story really pop, we need somebody with superpowers, super psychic spy program superpowers. Elizondo made those claims to multiple people.
really filled with people who have opinions and thoughts and beliefs about what all this kind of stuff means and so on. But TTSA has been put together on the basis of the mantra, you might say, let's just follow the data and see where it goes.
Where did the data go? Where did the $3 million go? Let's follow the data. Why don't you release the data on all of these fragments that you guys promoted? And I get it. They're very careful. Oh, it's UFO, UAP material. We didn't say it was alien. You're implying that, of course, and you're promoting it as extraordinary, right? And Tom DeLonge famously went on Joe Rogan and made all kinds of claims about floating metal, you know, and all kinds of claims that were never proven. None of this was ever proven to be anything other than metal junk and trash.
It is a bit like a fine art dealer, right? You're always looking for that lost Picasso. Chances are everybody comes to you and says, I have a lost Picasso, and it's probably someone's finger painting that they did in high school. But occasionally and rarely, and it only takes one time, you find that Picasso locked away in someone's attic or someone's basement and they didn't know they had it.
My whole career.
Oh yeah, they have a Picasso in the form of alien technology.
Was about solving really hard problems. This is a hard problem from so many different directions. It's technically not understood, socially not understood. And so we're on an inflection point now of an opportunity to do something really, really, really different.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see this stuff through the lens of time, right? Oh, wait a second. I have to go to YouTube to see through the lens of time, we can see that many of these claims that Dave Grusch is making have been made before. And the people making those claims collected millions of dollars based on those claims, right? And promised evidence was coming. This was 4 years ago, friends, that these claims were originally made. 4 long years ago. Where is the evidence of these claims made? And like I said, shouldn't they have to prove these claims before they come back to us with new claims and want new money for the new claims when they haven't proven the old claims with, and they got all that money before? I would think that would be a fair, ask to say, well, you guys claimed all this stuff before. Somebody collected $3 million. Where'd all that money go? Where's the evidence? Where's the data? Where is the lab results of all of that?
And so I think that's why we have a chance of actually making real progress, because we will follow where the data leads us.
I want to make sure.
So where did the data lead? Where is the data? Where is the evidence? Where is the lab reports? Why didn't we ever get them?
That I have a healthy dose of skepticism to make sure I'm not blindly accepting something because it's cool or neat or new or something like that. But the data supports the decisions that we make, the dots that we connect, the moves that we make. But I see a diligence being applied to this that gives me optimism that we stand a chance of being able to make some real progress.
There's Linda Moulton Howe shown in the promo. I think that was just the back of her head. That's who they bought this garbage from. Some of these pieces of garbage that were never proven to be anything extraordinary. And that one person recreated, but not to the satisfaction of Linda Moulton Howe. A lot of people don't know this, but the arts parts that they're basing these claims off of. So again, we have Linda Moulton Howe made a boatload of money claiming that those pieces were aliens. Then they bought them for $30,000. So Linda Moulton Howe gets another money grab. She gets $30,000. They get to take those pieces and make similar claims and do their own money grab. Nobody proved that this stuff was extraordinary or alien in all of these years. But here we are, and now we've got Grush making very similar claims about alien technology in our possession. But even grander claims, because now we've got claims of intact spacecraft.
I think we may cautiously optimistic be, on the brink of something really new.
We have to do this the right way.
We were on the brink 4 years ago. Where's the evidence? Where's the data? Where's the lab reports? How much money did you collect based on this overhyped, over-sensationalized story that was based on somebody else who overhyped and over-sensationalized this story before you in the form of Arts Parts and Linda Moulton Howe? Remember I said all this has happened before and it will all happen again? Are we going on the third iteration of Arts Parts now?
The right way isn't necessarily the right now way. We may just be at the beginning of the headwaters. Maybe we're just in a stream right now, and we're just at the very beginning, and it's just a small creek. But I think eventually,
I love how Alzando always has this stupid analogies. Like maybe we're just going upstream in the middle of a creek. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Invest now. Invest now. We'll get you the proof of those aliens. Oh, that's right. No, we won't. We won't bring you any evidence. We won't bring you any proof, but we'll take your money and claim we're going to give you the evidence. 4 years. Where is the evidence from 4 years ago? The grift cycle repeats. Here we go. We've got Linda Moulton Howe on the first grift cycle selling Arts Parts, claiming they were aliens. Then we've got To the Stars Academy, including the people we're talking about tonight, Hal Putoff, Louise Alzando, and others going around the grift thing again. We got the grift train. We've got the first iteration of the grift with Linda Moulton Howe. Then these guys and then we recycle that grift a second time. And now we're on to the third recycling of the original grift. Amazing, my friends, that this is where we're at. How many times are we going to let grifters sell us the same story without actually having proof or evidence? And each time you will notice that each time the claims get grander and grander, right? Each time they get grander and grander. Oh, I will have to we'll take a moment here to recognize Event Tide. Thank you, Event Tide. Steve, Nick, oh yeah, you're right. He wasn't the CIA guy. He was the Skunk Works guy. Steve Justice's nickname at Skunk Works was the Dream Crusher due to his realistic and practical approach. It's wild to me that he was involved in TTSA. I did not know that. Learned something new every day. Thank you, Event Tide, for your kindness, generosity, and support. We appreciate you helping us to praise the cash. So these are the people promoting. This guy, Louise Alzando, who pushed this nonsense garbage story 4 years ago, is the person allegedly grooming Mr. Dave Grusch for his role now as a so-called UFO whistleblower. So far, he hasn't blown the whistle on anything. We didn't get any evidence. We got a lot of stories. You notice the theme here? We get a lot of stories. You know what we don't get? Evidence of claims made, which is vastly more important to stories than me. I don't want to hear another 4 years worth of stories out of Dave Grusch before we find out, just like how Putoff and Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and Tom DeLonge and the TTSA alleged techno scam, allegedly under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission. I don't want to wait 4 years with Grusch before we find out, just like I just showed you. They've got no evidence. They've got no proof. They've got stories. And this is next on our list here. We're going to get to Mr. J. Stratton, who is interesting. 1 second here. You ever have sound playing and you don't know where it's coming from? Not good. Okay, let me get rid of that. We're good again. All right, let me find our next piece to share with you. I'm going to share this from my Twitter. You should follow me on Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambion on Twitter. This is from Stephen Greenstreet. Interesting. Jay Stratton. Jay Stratton was the former director of the Pentagon UAPTF, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. And he talks about his ghost encounters on History Channel's The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Jay Stratton believes that his house is haunted by UFOs, werewolves, and violent poltergeists. This man, Jay Stratton, was David Grush's direct supervisor, his boss. And I think when evaluating the claims of David Grusch, we probably want to know, we probably should recognize and want to know that his former boss in the job where he's investigating UFOs is Jay Stratton, again, former director of the Pentagon's UAPTF. And he talks about his ghost encounters on the History Channel's The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. And Mr. Stratton believes that his house is haunted by UFOs, werewolves, and violent poltergeists. Can you say wackadoo? Can you say it? Repeat after me. Wackadoo. Wackadoo. This is one of the people promoting and perhaps soon to be profiting from Dave Grusch and his claims of alien spacecraft. This guy's cashing in big time. Cashed in with George Knapp with a book about what? Skinwalker Ranch. You notice how it's all connected? The Skinwalker crowd and the TTSA crowd, they're connected at the hip. Oh, it's like grifts of a feather. They grift together. That's what they do. I think it's important that we recognize that Mr. J. Stratton has got a lot of profit-driven motives himself. Now he's a star of Skinwalker Ranch television show, and his book, he did a book, right, with George Knapp. So he has had a controversial involvement in UFOs. He's a former U.S. government agent and who makes many paranormal phenomenon claims, particularly in relation to his association with Skinwalker Ranch. He's made claims of ghosts, he's made claims of UFOs, and he's made claims of poltergeists. You know what he hasn't done? Proven any of his claims are true. Proven any of his stories are true. But that hasn't stopped him from cashing in on the Skinwalker scam and UFOs any chance he gets, right? We got a book deal. We got a TV show deal. Do you notice the pattern here? We got Alzando with TV show deals and book deals. Now we got Jay Stratton with TV shows and book deals and maybe documentary deals. And maybe Louise Alzando is going to have a documentary deal and live speaking fees. And Jay Stratton is signing up for those live speaking fees as well, perhaps, right? Do we see the profit-driven motive here? Jay Stratton, like a lot of the people we're covering tonight, has a lack of actual evidence. He has profit-driven motives, and his collaboration with figures like Bob Bigelow in a program aimed at investigating the paranormal is very suspicious, to say the least, considering all of the fakery and fraudery that was associated with that investigation. Stratton's contribution to the field cannot be dismissed entirely, but will examine and highlight the need for rigorous scrutiny and skepticism when evaluating claims from this man and perhaps claims from his former employee and underling in the form of David Grusch, former government agent. He garnered attention for his involvement with the paranormal phenomenon, particularly Skinwalker Ranch, and claims of otherworldly occurrences, again, including poltergeists, ghosts, and werewolves. And Mr. Stratton believes that his house is haunted by ghosts and werewolves. The so-called hitchhiker effect, right? Listen, those demons and those werewolves and those poltergeists and those ghosts, they followed me home from Skinwalker Ranch. This is the claims made by the former direct supervisor of David Grusch, this man, Jay Stratton. All right. Stratton's involvement with Skinwalker Ranch, which is renowned for its alleged but never proven paranormal activities, has brought him into the spotlight. His claims of encountering ghosts, UFOs, and poltergeists on the ranch have sparked intrigue, controversy, and serious debate among researchers. However, critics argue that his accounts often lack verifiable evidence, any data at all, any proof in the form of pictures, videos, etc. They also lack rigorous scientific documentation, casting doubt on the reliability of his claims and his testimonies. He, of course, is another person with a profit-driven motive. A consistent point of contention surrounding Stratton's narratives is the dearth of substantial evidence supporting his claims. Critics argue that his willingness to share sensational stories without comprehensive documentation or any scientific verification raises real concerns about the reliability and integrity of his accounts. Are they really true stories? If so, wouldn't they have some evidence attached to them? And why can't we get any evidence? Furthermore, many people, including myself, have made allegations of his profit-driven motives behind his storytelling. And that suggests a potential conflict of interest that may compromise the objectivity of the claims that he is making. After all, if you're getting TV show deals to tell ghosts and alien stories, aren't you going to come up with some more? I think that's a fair criticism of this man. Stratton's collaboration with entrepreneur Bob Bigelow in a program aimed at investigating the paranormal also drew scrutiny. While the program's intentions to explore unexplained phenomenon are commendable, critics question the rigor of the investigations and potential influence of profit motives on the research. We have heard Stephen Greenstreet detail in his reports that people would just fax Bob Bigelow fake stories about paranormal events happening at the ranch so that they could keep their paycheck. Was Mr. Stratton one of the people faxing fake reports of aliens and UFOs? The association with Bigelow, a figure with vested interest in paranormal ventures, raises serious concerns about his objectivity and the credibility of findings that he claims he has made. Jay Stratton's involvement with all of the paranormal phenomenon and claims he have made, particularly his association with the Skinwalker Ranch, claims of ghosts, UFOs, poltergeists, demons, hitchhikers, presents a challenging puzzle. Are we simply to accept extraordinary claims made with are we just to accept his extraordinary claims, which he makes without extraordinary evidence? In fact, he makes with absolutely no evidence except for his own stories and testimony. In a landscape saturated with sensational claims, the quest for truth and understanding demands a rigorous commitment to scientific validation of claims being made. So there we have it, Mr. Stratton. Wackadoo, wackadoo, wackadoodly-doo, friends. All right, now we have to get to one of my favorites, which is Dr. Gary Nolan. I've had a problem with Dr. Gary Nolan since the Greer documentary with the Atacama skeleton. It would seem to me that Dr. Gary Nolan, who, by the way, let me be clear, Mr. Stratton works directly for Dr. Gary Nolan, who has been involved with making fantastical claims of aliens and alien technology and bodies, and they're here, and never proven anything. Do you see that we see a common thread? All these people make these huge claims, but they never seem to have any proof. They never seem to provide any evidence. Could that perhaps inform us about Mr. Grush's claims? Or is this going to be the one time in history when somebody making these fantastical claims actually provides the evidence and the proof? Or are we just too early here? I believe we may be too early here. We've talked about the cycle that these things run. First, we get huge fantastical fairy tales. Huge claims, alien visitation on Earth. It's true. It's all true. The government's in possession of alien technology. It's all true. The government is in possession of non-human biologics. That could mean a goddamn cricket. Who knows what non-human body? They imply alien bodies, non-human bodies. Well, it depends on when you ask him. When you ask him under oath, he didn't want to say bodies, so they come up with a new term, non-human biologics. Great. Is this going to be the one time in history where one of these guys actually proves it? And look at all of the people around him and all of the claims that these people have made. It is ridiculous, the amount of claims that these people have made, the amount of money they've all made on making these claims, and the scant, if some would say zero sum of evidence that they have put forth to prove the veracity of their claims. So when we get into Dr. Gary Nolan, there's a lot of problems with Mr. Nolan. Now, I want to be clear in saying that Dr. Gary Nolan has made contributions to various scientific fields, including genetics and some other things related to immunology. It appears to be a very educated, intelligent man. However, I don't think being educated or intelligent precludes you from falling a little too deep down a rabbit hole and convincing yourself that claims with no actual evidence are true. Dr. Gary Nolan has made many controversial claims, and his association with many figures in the UFO community, like Ross Colthart, disgraced Australian journalist, or Dr. Stephen Greer, UFO profiteering whore for disclosure that always needs money and has made millions of dollars. And also his involvement, he has had a lot of involvement in organizations related to the study of UFOs, always with a profit-driven motive, in my view. Dr. Nolan's association with Dr. Stephen Greer, who some would call a prominent UFO promoter, has raised eyebrows within the scientific community. Critics argue that such associations may compromise the credibility of his research, given the speculative nature of some UFO-related claims promoted by Greer, or some 100% proven false claims promoted by Greer. Additionally, Dr. Nolan's work on the Atacama skeleton has sparked debate over his methodology and interpretation of his findings. Also very suspicious, he's going to give us the proof of aliens with Dr. Stephen Greer, and that was hyped and hyped and hyped and hyped. And then what do we get? We get the under-deliver, and inevitably we get the big letdown. But in that money grab, Greer and Nolan hyped up this Atacama skeleton. This is definitely an alien. Well, they didn't say definitely, but it's got to be. It's got to be. Could be anything else, right? But we're going to give you the proof of it. Then they do this huge money grab. Greer collects, I'm not sure if it was $500,000 or $1 million to crowdfund a documentary about that thing. And there's no evidence in the actual documentary. It wasn't until months after the documentary that suddenly Dr. Nolan and his colleagues finished the in-depth analysis of that thing, and it was determined that it was a human with a lot of deformities, but it wasn't an alien. It was a human. Why couldn't Dr. Nolan have made Greer wait to put out the documentary and include the actual scientific evidence or proof, which basically said was an alien? It was a human. Why couldn't they do that? Why couldn't Greer wait? Why couldn't Dr. Gary Nolan refuse to participate in hyping that garbage until we had proof or evidence? Could it be because it was all a money grab? It was all a money grab. And if you tell people it's not an alien, you're not going to have very much of a money grab, right? And just for the benefit of people, I'm sure everyone here is very well familiar with that story, right? And so we begin to see a pattern of people overhyping and then under-delivering on their fantastical claims, right? But all the while collecting millions of dollars in money grabs for UFO stuff, right? Documentaries, book deals, TV show deals, speaking fees. They all need money before they can bring us the proof, but they never come up with the proof. So back to Mr. Nolan. It's also interesting that Mr. Nolan, in my view, and I admit that I am very, very skeptical of him. Dr. Gary Nolan, according to the Stanford Code of Ethics, is not supposed to profit personally from the use of Stanford University labs, equipment, or personnel. I'm sure he was paid for his participation with Greer, right? How much was he paid? And doesn't that go against the Stanford Code of Ethics? And shouldn't he have to answer some questions, Dr. Gary Nolan, about the Code of Ethics at Stanford that says he's not supposed to use university labs, equipment, or personnel to profit? And has he done so in the past? Has he done so with Ross Colthart as well, who he participated in another documentary project with that promised all kinds of things but never delivered anything? One second. Okay, so Dr. Gary Nolan has also made claims of aliens on Earth and other unconventional phenomenon. One of the most provocative aspects of Dr. Nolan's work is his claims about the presence of aliens on Earth. These allegations or assertions lack scientific evidence and fall outside of established scientific paradigms, inviting skepticism and critical analysis. And then, similarly, he's made claims about UFO-related injuries and incidents, and those require rigorous scrutiny as they challenge conventional scientific explanations. And his claims may not be based in reality. There's also his collaboration with journalist I would say alleged journalist, Ross Colthart, who I don't think is a journalist. He's a disgraced journalist who then became a garbage peddler, right? Dr. Nolan's collaboration with Australian journalist Ross Colthart, particularly their involvement in disseminating a completely fabricated story about, quote, conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And then they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. His involvement with that completely 100% fake story has drawn significant criticism. And the propagation of these stories without actual evidence undermines the credibility of all researchers and raises concerns about the integrity of everyone's work. In other words, if Gary Nolan is involved in constantly promoting these stories, sometimes they turn out to be fake, sometimes they turn out to be nothing burgers. Doesn't that damage the entire subject matter? I think so. There was also his involvement with To the Stars Academy. Again, this is To the Stars Academy 3.0. We've got David Grusch working for this man, Gary Nolan, who worked for TTSA. Dr. Nolan's association with To the Stars Academy, an organization known for its unconventional claims and UFO-related research, added another layer of problems to his public profile. Problems, of course, by problems, I mean problems with his credibility. There's also his claims of working for the CIA that have also raised a great deal of skepticism, given the lack of verifiable evidence supporting the claims that he made. Show us proof you worked for the CIA. Dr. Nolan's involvement in UFO-related organizations further blurs the line between scientific inquiry and speculative claims. Critics like myself may argue that such associations compromise the credibility of his research, and they raise very serious questions about the level of evidence that he requires before jumping to making extraordinary claims and assertions. Dr. Nolan's got a history of, in my view, selling the credibility of Stanford University and his own credibility and the labs of Stanford to people who want to sell UFO stories. I will renew my questions about his inability to answer questions related to the ethics code at Stanford University. After all, they promised that Gary Nolan and Ross Colthart promised that there was conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And then they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. Michio Kaku didn't confirm anything. They didn't prove anything. They had no evidence. They had no proof. And Dr. Gary Nolan was seen in that piece at Stanford University in lab saying that he's going to get to the bottom of it. They're going to do the analysis. Later, he claimed that he couldn't do the analysis. Later, he made excuses for why he could not do the analysis work after, it's the cart before the horse. They promised they had conclusive proof of alien technology, and then the piece comes out, there's no proof of alien technology. And then, people start saying, well, this was all a grift then. This was all a scam. You guys didn't have evidence or proof. And then he gets very upset when somebody, sort of pushes him on the subject of providing the proof for claims that he had already made.
They come to me with some of their results, and I basically said, these results are shit. So I'm sorry to the people who are so friggin' impatient that they won't get off their butt and go learn this stuff and do it themselves. I'm not your daddy. I'm not here to do things for you. I'm sorry. Get out of your basement and go do something. I've seen some of those snap your fingers reports, and they're garbage. Publish the darn paper. Stop claiming that. This is shoddy work. This can't go anywhere. Who did this? It's crap.
Yeah, I agree. You know what else is shoddy work? Claiming with a disgraced Australian journalist that you have, quote, conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this renowned scientist, Michio Kaku, right? And then you essentially refuse to provide the analysis that those claims were based on. We're going on over a year. Over a year, Ross Colthart, Gary Nolan directly together made extraordinary claims of conclusive proof of alien technology. Didn't confirm anything. And just to rewind so we get it on the record, the promos is what he promised what they promised conclusive proof of alien technology. Where's the proof? Where's the evidence?
Can I just say, even though I'm not entirely comfortable at times with the way they sensationalize in their promos, because I thought the promos for our story were a tad over the top at times.
What you're seeing here is momentous.
You think that's alien technology?
Yes, I do.
I thought the promos for our story were a tad over the top.
We have new conclusive proof.
Testable evidence of alien technology.
Tad over the top at times.
Is it possible to exceed the speed of light? The answer is yes.
The biggest discovery in human history.
Promos for our story were a tad over the top.
New evidence that has to be seen to be believed.
7 News Spotlight, Sunday on 7 and 7+.
Not entirely comfortable at times with the way they sensationalize in their promos, because I thought the promos for our story were a tad over the top at times.
The most important discovery in human history, conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this renowned scientist. Well, it's been over a year. Where's the evidence of those claims made over a year ago? Where's the proof? No, they're back and they want new money. Forget about the old money we took from the UFO community and everybody on Earth for those claims we made. Forget all about that. We're on to new claims. There's a new whistleblower. His name's Dave Grusch. And by the way, it's important that we recognize and understand that Dave Grusch works for this man who made these claims more than a year ago and was also involved in this Atacama, which is a travesty. If you're using a dead baby to grift for UFO money, and you both are learned men of science, right? Stephen Greer was a medical doctor. Dr. Gary Nolan is supposed to be a world-renowned immunologist. Wouldn't those two learned men of science wait to get the results before everybody starts claiming alien stuff? Of course not, because that's not good for the money grab. You make the claims first, you promise the evidence, and then it's over-sensationalized, over-hype, the big hype. You got to sell these stories with big hype, over-promise. Then comes the under-deliver, and then we get to the inevitable letdown. And then you're on to the next story you can make money from. We saw Nolan with this Atacama, right? How much money did he make from that? Working with and for Dr. Stephen Greer. How much money did he make? It's a fair question. And did he use university labs, equipment, and even personnel to do that analysis? And isn't that against the Stanford Code of Ethics? But then forget about that money. We move on to the next money grab, which was this one with Ross Colthart. We have conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this renowned scientist. And they show Michio Kaku. Go ask Michio Kaku what he confirmed. He didn't confirm shit. They didn't have anything. They didn't have extraordinary. They didn't have conclusive proof. They had no proof, right? But now Gary Nolan and Ross Colthart want you to forget about those claims that we made. Forget all about the conclusive proof of alien technology confirmed by Michio Kaku and the biggest discovery in human history. Forget all about those claims, right? Because apparently, maybe it's because of our reporting on the Stanford Code of Ethics and how he's not supposed to use university labs, equipment, and personnel to personally profit. And by the way, I'm just asking questions. And we asked Dr. Gary Nolan directly. I emailed him a list of questions about that Stanford Code of Ethics and if he was in violation of it. He refused to answer the questions, stating that I was spreading conspiracy theories about him? Isn't it a fair question when right on the website of Stanford Code of Ethics, it says you cannot personally profit from university labs, equipment, and personnel? Was the university aware that he was taking side gigs and, in my view, whoring out Stanford University labs for UFO stories that all turned out to be fake and not real? At least the original claims hyped up and made all turned out to not be real. It's a big club, friends, and these are all the people around David Grusch. David Grusch works directly for Gary Nolan in an organization, and guess who else is involved with that? Christopher Mellon and others that were directly involved with TTSA as well. It's a big club, and I ain't in it, so I can tell you the truth. And isn't it pathetic that we have hundreds of UFO shows on YouTube, but we're the only people asking these hard and critical questions, and most other people are simply doing the UFO circle jerk. That's what they do. They're UFO circle jerkers. They hype up each other's fantastical claims. They don't demand critical thinking or hard evidence before accepting claims, these fantastical claims made. And then there's the forgiveness of all the past claims and money grabs that didn't turn out to be what they were originally, hyped up as. I think this is extremely important. And again, we have to view all of this through the lens of history. And while we're there, we can get to Ross Colthart and his controversial journalism that I believe is based entirely. Ross Colthart's entire narratives are based on deception, sensationalism, lies by omission, and of course, profit-driven motives. We see this time and time again. All of these people very profit-based, right? The new big scoop, but you got to shell out some cash to get the new alien stories, right? And are these new stories going to turn out to be like the old stories that they hyped up and never delivered on? Or oh no, this time it's going to be different, right? You keep telling yourself that, but history is the greatest teacher. 1 second here. I apologize for the lack of visual aid. So I'll just share this. I think we're all well aware of who Mr. Colthart is. If you follow our show, you'll know he's a disgraced journalist, former 60 Minutes reporter, whose contract was not renewed after a particularly false and deceptive and misleading story was, dare I say it again, overhyped and then under-delivered on. And then it led to the big letdown. And in fact, one of the person that he used as a source and didn't vet properly like a real journalist made all these claims about child-related crimes and the British government. That man was later arrested for making false accusations and false claims. That's the quality of the sources that Ross Colthart relies on to sell super hyped up, fantastic stories that are over sensationalized, and they always under deliver, friends. So when we get into Mr. Colthart, his journalistic endeavors have attracted a great deal of attention. And along with that attention came a great deal of controversy due to his involvement in very sensationalized and unverified stories, often supported by a great number of anonymous sources, just like his book. Lots of anonymous sources, no on-the-record comments. Well, I don't want to say no, but largely his book has got a lot of anonymous sources that he can't talk about. We need to critically evaluate his credibility. People are calling him an award-winning journalist. Well, maybe he used to be, but he's a shit peddler now. We need to get into why he may have been, or some people are saying he was let go from 60 Minutes Australia. He's denied that accusation, saying it had nothing to do with this. But shortly before his contract was not renewed with 60 Minutes Australia, Ross Colthart was behind a British Parliament sexual crimes against children story. Colthart's involvement in that story implicated the British Parliament in a ring of child predators and made hugely serious allegations. And that story drew widespread attention and eventually criticism when the story that he was selling fell apart due to terrible sources, people with a history of lying and telling fantastical fairy tales, and a lack of actual journalistic investigation into the story before running with these very serious accusations. The story relied on very questionable sources and completely unsubstantiated claims with no evidence. Just a story, allegations, very serious allegations somebody made against a great number of British government people. And this, of course, led to accusations of deception and misinformation in a piece by Media Watch. When Media Watch examined the story, they exposed Ross Colthart's lack of credible evidence and his extremely piss-poor journalistic practices he used in the production of that piece. Shortly afterwards, there was a departure from 60 Minutes Australia, because following the controversy of that story and its subsequent criticism by Media Watch and other real journalists, Colthart's departure raised questions about the impact of credibility concerns of his so-called journalist career. The story's lack of substantiation and resulting fallout, some say, likely played a role in his departure from the 60 Minutes Australia program. He has made dubious claims about aliens and extraterrestrial technology since that story and the separation from 60 Minutes Australia. Colthart's foray into the realm of UFOs and extraterrestrial phenomenon has been marked by sensational claims and a lack of any real or verifiable evidence. Do you see the theme here? All these people make these huge claims, and then they don't deliver on the actual evidence. His assertions previously of having, quote, conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this renowned scientist, Michio Kaku, would seem to be deceptively edited to include endorsements from renowned physicist Michio Kaku. And those claims and the deceptive manner in which he edits pieces to sell a fantastical fairy tale that's completely, totally false, not true story, those attempts by him to sell completely fake stories have drawn skepticism from both the journalist community and the scientific community. His claims about giant spaceships on Earth, alien technology, back engineering programs, and even alleged alien bodies raise concerns about the veracity of his sources, which are often anonymous, and the credibility of his narratives. Could it be that he intentionally overhypes, over-sensationalizes, and then inevitably under-delivers when it comes to providing the evidence of his claims? There's also, of course, the profit-driven motives and sensationalism, because there's a reoccurring theme in Colthart's journalistic pursuits, and that is profit-driven motives. He needs book deals, documentary deals, TV show deals, and more. Big money gigs bringing a big story to News Nation, who, by the way, is directly connected to George Knapp's Mystery Wire. It's all a big club. Critics like me argue that his inclination to promote sensational and unverified stories is often accompanied by book deals, documentaries, TV shows, and other revenue-generating ventures, raises very, very serious ethical concerns about his jump and his rush to prioritizing profit over actually providing real and verifiable evidence, and over his own journalistic integrity. Some would say his lack of journalistic integrity. Pardon me. Mr. Colthart, his journalistic career has been marked by a great amount of controversy, an incredible amount of sensationalism, and unproven claims. While his stories may be successful at capturing public attention, the lack of evidence that he sometimes overhypes and over-sensationalizes and promises before the money grab is finished, as well as the lack of credible evidence, questionable sources. All of that underscores the need for critical scrutiny and skepticism about any stories or any claims being made by Ross Colthart. And again, what we get with Ross Colthart is an inability to answer hard questions. Have a hard question, you get blocked, right? But he will do the circle jerk shows where they just let him tell fairy tales unchallenged. That's the way that this whole thing has worked. Ross Colthart has been a garbage peddler for some time. And for anyone to suggest otherwise shows their ignorance of his actual history and track record of selling provably fake stories multiple times now. How many times are we going to let him sell completely fake stories to big money, profits before we say, wait a minute, before we even listen to this man, let's see the evidence that he has. What is the evidence that he has? Somebody telling stories, just like the last story that he sold was another guy telling stories. The Jim's balls guy. What happened to Jim's balls? What happened to the evidence of Jim's balls? This is a goddamn clown show. And anybody that doesn't recognize that this is a clown show doesn't know the facts, doesn't know the history, and doesn't recognize that sometimes a grift is just a grift. Now, my friends, we want to welcome you and recognize members of the live chat here. I'm trying to monitor the live chat here. We have a incredible live chat going. Welcome one and all, whether you're listening on or watching on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Truth Seeker Show. Whether you're following along on my Twitter feed, it's @Stephen Cambion, or you're watching on the Facebook live feed, that's Stephen Cambion on Twitter, or Truth Seeker Show on Twitter, or perhaps watching and following along in the Rumble live chat. We want to welcome one and all. Tonight we are presenting a very special broadcast that is a not so brief history of the people promoting Dave Grush's stories. And as we get through, we're more than halfway through. We got two more for you. Two of my favorite UFO profiteers, that would be Jeremy Corbel and George Knapp. Before we get to those and try to wrap it up, I do want to remind you that Mr. Nolan and Mr. Colthart and Mr. Alzando and Jay Stratton and Hal Putoff and Eric Davis have all got some things in common, and George Knapp and Jeremy Corbel. In fact, all of these people who are promoting and in some cases profiting from Dave Grush's stories have all done the same thing. Promote sensational, fantastical stories, totally sensationalized stories, promised evidence, and then never delivered it. But they did manage to do huge money grabs the whole time the claims were being made before the, I guess, rise of, critical voices to say, okay, you're collecting, in some cases, millions of dollars based on these claims. You say you have evidence. Can we see it? Before it all comes crashing down, they grab the money. All these people. And this is proven history. These are facts. And I'm sorry if we pop your delusion bubble. Pop! This is the reality of the history of some of the people that are right now actively promoting and in some cases profiting from and with the stories of Dave Grush. So we have just a few important details and information to share with you. But before we do that, I apologize for jumping around. I want to be sure that we give you an exhaustive resource here so that you will know some of the claims that some of these people have made. Here's one I forgot about. Dr. Gary Nolan making some pretty extraordinary claims about alien bodies.
And this is really fascinating, the whole eminent domain, but linked into this is if there are actual materials, objects, frankly, bodies, this is in the documentation, so it's not like I'm raising it. There's biological material. That's a nice way of saying bodies.
Biological material.
The review board will have the option to actually inspect it in person.
Oh, the review board is going to be able to inspect the alien bodies. Well, where are the alien bodies? When was that review board? How long ago did you make this statement? And isn't that a non-human biological behind him? Yeah, that's right. A cat is a non-human biological. Dr. Gary Nolan is in possession of non-human biologicals. You know, the claims that these people make are absolutely out of this world. And the fact that they're so easily able to make these fantastical claims without any scientifically verifiable evidence of the claims being made, I think that more than anything speak volumes. And there is, of course, news stories being generated about egg-shaped non-human craft recovered in the 1980s. These people haven't proven any of their past claims. They're on to new claims. That's how this works. It's called the Cosmic Con Shuffle. You put out fantastic claims. You promise that this is a really true story, and we've got all this evidence. And then before you actually provide evidence of those claims, you do the money grab. Then you got to under-deliver because you overhyped and over-sensationalized the claims too much when you had scant or little, some would say zero, evidence of the claims made. And then you do the Cosmic Con Shuffle, and you come back with news stories. That's how this whole cycle works. So we are going to explore the last two contestants here. But before we do that, now it would be a good time to remind you that we are a viewer-supported show. And by the way, I got told I was running a grift on Twitter today because we have some videos behind a paywall. But what people don't understand is that all of my content is now and will always be free. People can choose to support us. We're not making millions of dollars lying to people. We're getting an income from providing people with valuable evidence that they find so valuable they're willing to throw a couple of bucks in our hat so that we can continue to do this show as a public benefit. And that's what I believe our show is, a public benefit. We give people all the evidence we can. We don't sell half the story to you and do a money grab and then run away when people start demanding the evidence or the proof. We try to give you balanced coverage, both sides of the story. Unfortunately, we do tend to focus on the more critical sides of these stories because no one else does. And the people selling these fantastic fairy tales, usually they give you just a little bit of the story, and they don't give you the full context. That's what we're here to do. We're here to give you all the lies by omission that these UFO profiteering people leave out. We try to include. I consider what we do a public benefit. It's also worthy of note that I do not live off of the show's income here. None of my personal expenses, household expenses, whatever, come out of the show's income. That is put into a separate ledger. We have an account just for that. It goes into the till when we need something for the show, like lights, backdrops, microphones, headphones, webcams, software, whatever we need comes out of the till of the show. And that's all I use it for. And that drives the UFO grifters crazy. They're like, you're running a grift too. Yeah. We have spreadsheets, bitches. All right. And while we're praising the cash for telling people the truth. We're not lying to you. We're not deceiving you. We're not giving you false hope that soon the truth about aliens will be revealed. And we're equally not making millions of dollars. Our show gets a very modest income from people throwing a couple bucks in our hat or becoming a Patreon supporter and getting, early access to the videos before they're posted at times, or whatever other benefits that we can give to thank people for their kindness, generosity, and support of the show. In any case, It's enough to rebuff those people. The argument is so ridiculous. Like, if I was concerned with money and I wanted to run a grift, I would just go full tilt in on aliens are real, aliens are here, these guys are all telling the truth, all this evidence is coming, and I would do 100 times the income and 100 times the views. No, our journey here is about seeking the truth, is about evaluating all of the available evidence before coming to conclusions about the veracity of claims being made. And I hope our focus will always be that. So the show is not over. We got 2 more of these people to get through, and then we'll have time for comments and questions. I've got more time to share with you. Don't go anywhere. This is just a few quick minutes to remind you how you too can support our show.
Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and in many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey. Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like, and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
Okay, friends, so we'll continue our journey. And the next few people that we'll be talking about is, of course, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. Now, before we begin on that coverage, I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but it's enough to say that some people have put together a timeline of David Grusch and his association with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. And people are speculating that Dave Grusch was the source for some of the stories that George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell were selling before, or for some of the information they used in the stories they were selling before he became a public figure. If this is the case, then these questions demand answers. What information, if any, did Mr. David Grusch provide you, George Knapp, or you, Jeremy Corbell, in the past 2 years since you've met him? Did he provide the Mosul orb? Did he provide other information? The Baghdad Phantom? Was that your source? And let's not let these clowns hide behind journalistic integrity and protect their sources. They should have to answer whether they had a financial arrangement with Mr. Grusch or whatever arrangement with Mr. Grusch by which they profited from information obtained from the United States government. These are very serious claims, I understand, but I think they should have to answer for whether any of the material that they have been selling in their stories, including the Mosul orb and the Baghdad Phantom and more, if any of the information used in those stories were provided by Mr. Grusch. People are speculating wildly that some of the so-called retaliation he may be filing complaints about was because he was leaking information from classified briefings to members of the media that sell stories about UFOs or aliens. I freely admit that this is speculations and rumors, but I think that these questions are important questions that Mr. Knapp and Jeremy Corbell should have to answer for. And now we begin, of course, with George Knapp, who has been selling stories about aliens and UFOs for more than 30 years. We can provide you with a critical analysis of his alien narratives and profit-driven ventures. George Knapp's career in journalism has been characterized by his engagement with sensational and extraordinary narratives. Sound familiar? A lot like Ross Colthart, particularly those stories related to aliens, secret government projects, Area 51, and the paranormal, as well as Skinwalker Ranch. The most sensational claims coming from the Knapp camp and later the Corbell camp, remember we talked about recycling the story? Okay, so you sell the story once, and then when you don't prove the claims, you sell it again later. That's what Knapp and Corbell did with the Bob Lazar story. One of Knapp's most widely known narratives is the story of Bob Lazar, who claimed to have worked on reverse engineering alien spacecraft at Area 51. Knapp's role in popularizing Lazar's claims and the associated Area 51 mythology has drawn both fascination and skepticism and an incredible amount of debate. Criticisms of the Lazar story include allegations of inconsistent and unverifiable information, raising concerns about Knapp's responsibility in promoting these narratives that lack actual or credible or verifiable evidence. Then there is the selective presentation and downplaying of facts, because George Knapp's approach to storytelling, he did it with Bob Lazar and he's done it with other stories. His approach often involves presenting selective information while downplaying facts that would undermine the credibility of his narratives. This strategic use of information can create an incomplete or skewed perspective, making it extremely challenging for most audiences to critically assess the validity of the claims being presented. And we saw this time and time again. It's the lie by omission. You know, kind of like the flare story that they just profited wildly from. You know, just forget to tell everybody that there was flares being dropped in that exact area at that exact time during a military exercise. Just tell everybody it's a triangle alien spacecraft, right? Then there is Skinwalker Ranch and more profit-driven motives from Knapp. Knapp's involvement in projects related to Skinwalker Ranch, a location renowned for its alleged paranormal activities, raises very serious questions about his profit-driven motives. He has participated in documentaries, books, collaborations, and other ventures centered around the ranch. And this suggests a very serious potential conflict of interest that may influence the objectivity of his reporting. And then, of course, I have harped on this. There is the importance of getting the complete story. The reason that the Bob Lazar story works at all is because they leave out half of the story. It's extremely important that you get the complete story. The complexity of evaluating sensational claims requires a comprehensive approach that considers all available evidence, context, testimony, potential motivations behind the narratives. But Knapp's tendency is to present only certain aspects of a story, and this highlights the necessity of seeking a complete picture before drawing conclusions about the veracity of the extraordinary claims made by George Knapp, who profits from all these claims. George Knapp's journalistic career, like Ross Colthart's, is marked by his engagement with sensational narratives, and this raises critical questions about the responsibilities of journalists when presenting these very extraordinary claims. While his storytelling may captivate certain audiences, the selective presentation of facts, the downplaying of elements that challenge credibility of the claims being made, and of course, the involvement of money underscores the need for discernment, skepticism, and a very, very critical evaluation of claims put forth by George Knapp. As media consumers, it's vital to approach these sensational narratives with a critical eye, especially when we can show a pattern of, let's just say, massaging the data, playing fast and loose with facts, making sensational claims, claiming there's all kinds of evidence, but when pressed, you have to admit there is no evidence. Famously, Mr. George Knapp's book on the Skinwalker Ranch, his first one, claims that the book was based on all of the collected evidence over the years. Yet, during a podcast appearance with Joe Rogan, Mr. Rogan pressed him saying, "Is there any evidence?" Mr. Knapp had to admit, no, there wasn't. So right there in print in his book, he's claiming that these stories have all this evidence. But on a podcast appearance with Joe Rogan, when pressed, is there any evidence? Well, no, not real evidence. Well, what is this? Land of make-believe evidence? This is absolutely ridiculous. And then, of course, a very similar style and similar tactics are used by Jeremy Corbell, who I believe Mr. Knapp engaged with to recycle a lot of his old stories and information so that they could do another money grab. Imagine that. So we get to Jeremy Corbell and the documentaries and alleged truths that he is bringing forward. But again, we have to make a critical examination of the sensationalism and the lies by omission that Jeremy Corbell also employs in order to sell his stories. Jeremy Corbell's career in documentary filmmaking came after a career as a quantum jiu-jitsu instructor, a form of jiu-jitsu that he invented, and also some strange form of yoga, which he also claims to have invented, and being a failed visual artist. Well, some would say failed. The jury's out. But his documentary filmmaking, he used to claim he was an investigative documentary filmmaker. Now he claims he's also an investigative journalist. I would submit to you that he is neither, because his career in documentary filmmaking has been marked by his engagement with sensational and extraordinary unproven narratives, often centered around the claims of aliens, secret government projects, and some very paranormal phenomenon. If we critically examine Corbel's documentary work, we find a pattern of deception, misdirection, and lies by omission that he employs in order to make his stories work and sell much better than presenting the full story. The Bob Lazar story, his documentary played a significant role in repopularizing the story of Bob Lazar, who again claimed to have worked on back engineering alien spacecraft. Those narratives have attracted both intrigue and debate. And the debate rages on. Just go on UFO Twitter and write something about Bob Lazar. You'll get believers, skeptics in 3 hours or 3 days of arguments about Bob Lazar. Critics argue that Corbel's documentaries often emphasize certain aspects of the story while downplaying or omitting facts that may challenge the credibility of the claims made, potentially leading audience to form incomplete and misleading conclusions about the truthfulness of the stories he presents. We've seen a lot of that in the Bob Lazar story. He had access to Bob Lazar's family, didn't ask about his education or if they attended his MIT or Caltech graduation, or he did, and he didn't like the answer, so that ended up on the cutting room floor. This is the lie by omission that we keep talking about. The selective presentation and omission. Corbel's approach to documentary filmmaking often involves presenting a specific narrative angle while omitting contradictory or inconvenient information that would serve to prove the story is not true as he presents it. This practice can create a distorted perception of reality, leading viewers to believe that they have been presented with the whole truth, when in fact, crucial context or counter-arguments have been deliberately left out in order to sell the story. And we can get into the lie by omission and the integrity of so-called investigative filmmaking or investigative journalism, because Corbel's use of that lie by omission method, wherein relevant information is deliberately omitted to support a particular narrative, that directly challenges the principles of any kind of documentary filmmaking integrity or journalistic integrity or responsible reporting. This method often can lead to the propagation of misleading or unsubstantiated claims, promoting what is essentially a fairy tale or mythology as a true and real story. And this ultimately undermines the credibility of all documentaries and all investigative journalists and the trust of the audience. Once people become wise to these methods, they will question even people that are giving you the full story or trying their very best to. This is the damage. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have done more to damage the credibility of this subject than anyone on earth, in my view. Evaluating sensational claims, particularly those presented in documentaries, requires a commitment to seeking out the complete story and critically analyzing all available evidence, not just the part given to you by the profiteers. We can also talk about one of his films, Patient 17, and alleged alien implants, because Corbell's documentary, Patient 17, which claims to present evidence of alien implants being removed from alleged alien abductees, has also drawn a lot of controversy. There is a lack of rigorous scientific validation or any peer-reviewed evidence supporting these claims of alien implants, but that didn't stop him from creating an entire documentary making those claims. The documentaries focus on just anecdotal accounts, in other words, just stories, and the over sensationalism raised by the hyping of the so-called true information presented in the film. It raises serious concerns about his responsibility, about his ethical compass here in the presentation of completely unverified information as fact. Jeremy Corbell's documentary filmmaking is characterized by the promotion of very sensational, overhyped, and unverified claims. And this raises significant concerns about his integrity and his motives. Why would you purposefully leave out half the story? Unless it's all money grab, friends. His selective presentation of information, use of omission, and portrayal of unverified narratives challenged the credibility of his work and those that work with him. We have seen Jeremy Corbell get the story wrong over and over and over again. The pyramid story. Pyramid spaceships. No, it wasn't, right? Let's see. Flares. There was a giant triangle spaceship. No, it wasn't. Bob Lazar. Oh, we forgot to tell you he was a convicted pimp who never would have been given clearance to work on any government project because his education was completely and totally fake. And he had just declared bankruptcy, and this was during the height of the Cold War. And his wife was a convicted murderer with at the time, his wife was a convicted murderer with very strong ties to organized crime. He leaves out the part of the story, such a huge part of the story. Why would you leave that out? I believe Jeremy Corbell lives in a delusional fairy tale world where he's bringing people the truth. But even Mr. Corbell knows it's not the truth. Certainly not the whole truth. Certainly not nothing but the truth. The truth is not malleable. The truth is not dependent on massaging of data. The truth remains the truth. Jeremy Corbell does not bring you the truth, and he doesn't have any verifiable real evidence or information to tell you. No, instead, Jeremy Corbell always has a news story to sell you. And even though he hasn't proven any of his previous claims, he'll always be back with, again, not a new story to tell you, but a new story to sell you. And with that, my friends, well, I could share with you, in fact, I will. There is more exciting claims being made by Mr. Corbell. And even though he hasn't, proven past claims, here we are again with brand new stories. Do you notice the pattern here? And this is how the pattern works. You come out with fantastical, sensational, overhyped claims. You underdeliver. Inevitably, that leads to the big letdown. And then you just come out with new stories and new claims of fantastical things coming. There's fantastic things that are coming soon. One second here. And Mr. Corbell, of course, is a media talking head, a so-called UFO expert. For being an expert, he gets an awful lot of things wrong, right? An awful lot of stories he gets completely wrong and does the lie by omission in order to it's like trying to push a dead horse up the hill. It's not easy. Fair use. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public and critiquing the video we're sharing.
Do you think that some of the whistleblowers that we've been talking about...
Oh, news stories!
40 whistleblowers or thereabouts in the wings, ready to go.
News stories.
What kind of state of readiness do you believe tonight those people are in?
Armed to the teeth.
Wow.
Little hype.
And the kind of... And look, I'm sure that you know more that you can tell me tonight, and that's all right. You know, you tell me what you want to tell me, and that's cool with me, because it's great to have you on the show.
I'm not trying to be coy. It's not.
No, I get it.
I want to tell you everything.
I
David
totally
Grush
get it.
wanted to tell you everything. It's just that the legality of it and making sure that that happens properly is so important for the historical
top
record
secret.
of how this is done.
Yeah, and
It's
exactly.
top
If you
secret.
trip on this route,
Can't tell you.
You're going to fall a long way. So
Can't tell you. It's all top secret. Yet the DOD cleared David Grusch to talk about alien bodies and crash retrieval programs, which means by definition, those things are not considered classified to the United States government. So why can't we get any evidence? Oh no, new whistleblowers. Well, the first whistleblower you put out there and you might have all made destroy a perfectly good career. He hasn't proven his claims. Now we're getting the kick the can, chase the carrot treatment. Go kick the can. Don't worry that the first whistleblower didn't prove anything. We got new whistleblowers for you. Again, forget about previous claims made. We got news stories for you.
I understand that entirely. But those 40 people, if there are 40 people, maybe...
Yeah, these 40 people are all going to come forward. What if all 40 of them come forward and all of them have about as much verifiable evidence or proof that Dave Grusch had? What if all 40 of them come out and they all just have stories, just like Dave Grusch had? Would that mean that we are now in the under-deliver on our way to the big letdown portion of this whole fiasco, right? But don't worry, because by then, all these clowns would have made a lot of money. You know, by the time it all comes crashing down, we'll have documentaries out, we'll have book deals, Grusch will get speaking deals. I guarantee you that David Grusch will be working UFO conventions for the next 10 years, whether he provides any evidence or proof or doesn't. Either way, he's going to be a professional UFO storyteller now, just like Alzando was for the past 8 years and hasn't proven anything. Just like George Knapp was for the past 30 years and hasn't proven anything. Just like Jeremy Corbel has for almost a decade now, right? Or maybe a little less, and hasn't proven any of his claims. You don't need proof. You just need fantastic stories that massage all the data and make people think that maybe it's true. You promote the mystery. You don't ever solve it by providing evidence.
There are more. What do you think, what's your best guess, is the kind of stuff they're going to come out with?
Oh, I think you'll be hearing directly from people that have worked on these technologies, people that might even have their clearances held in a kind of purgatory so they can't leave. I think that you're going to hear directly from people that ran programs, which, by the way, there were supposed to be 2 other legacy UFO program witnesses, one from an agency.
An agency? Ooh, spooky stories.
Actually have much more of the story than you or me or anybody else. So that didn't happen. That should tell you something. So
maybe it tells you that their claims were garbage. Were these the people that didn't fail the background check? Jeremy Corbel, are you leaving some things out here? Right? Are you massaging the available data? Are you doing the lie by omission? Oh, some people couldn't testify. Well, did you forget that they couldn't testify because maybe they didn't pass a basic background check?
Who are you going to hear from, as long as there's not some major problem that occurs? Oh, you're going to hear from everybody involved. I mean, you're going to hear, man. This is something that's coming out. I'm telling you, there's no stopping it now. It's just a matter of vetting it all as you go, piece by piece, to start to understand.
Did he vet his military witnesses who told him they saw a triangle spaceship? He wants us to do research. Does he do research? Jeremy Corbel is the most piss poor UFO researcher, UFO expert on planet Earth. You know, it's evidenced by the way he leaves so much out of the stories that he's hawking. But again, you know, it doesn't take a nuclear physicist or even a fake nuclear physicist like Bob Lazar to figure out that there's a reason that they leave so much information out when they're pushing stories. They don't want to give you the full story.
And a different version of what you've been told The reality is.
When's this going to happen, Jeremy? Do you think September?
I do not predict things I do not have direct control and my finger on the button of. But I will tell you, not only have plans been made,
they made plans. Oh, there's plans. Oh,
have been enacted to make sure to protect people. How the world handles David Grush is going to change everything. It will be the
so far, everybody but News Nation is more or less ignoring him, except for some YouTube channels and smaller news outlets. There was some mention of him, but most of the major media is kind of like, well, what if it's true? He didn't show us any evidence, though.
Easy way.
And then we get the excuse for where the evidence is. We get excuses. Now, before any evidence is shown of Grush's claims, they're going to put new people forward with new claims. Just like I said, don't provide proof or evidence of past claims. Just come at people with new, fantastic, sensational claims and hope they forget about the claims you already made that you never provided the evidence for.
Or it will be the hard way, because David Grush is telling you how it is, what he knows, and he's got a lot more to say. So how he's handled gives permission to everybody else to come forward the right way.
They don't need permission. There's whistleblower protection, right?
Compared to the wrong way, which would be directly through a journalist like me. I'm always passing people forward through the right way.
Oh, sure. He does things the right way. He does things the right way. This clown has made millions of dollars selling lies, but he's going to tell you he's doing things the right way. He just bought $1 million house somewhere that he made. The house was built on lies, bought on lies. Congratulations, Grifty McGrift a lot. Listen, people know and can understand that I am not somebody to mince words. These people are actively deceiving people for profit. And listen, if you're going to make absolutely world-shattering, fantastical claims, you better come with some evidence. Don't come with, oh no, there's some new people are going to tell new stories. Don't worry about the old stories and proving those. We're moving on to new stories from new people. And the cycle repeats, rinse and repeat, and rinse and repeat, friends. So this will conclude our presentation. I'm going to take some comments and questions from the live chat. Thanks so much, all of you, for being here. If you're just joining us, we have tonight provided a presentation of a not-so-brief history of the people promoting David Grush's claims. And I truly hope that people will listen to this and hear and understand that we need to view the claims, the current claims being made, through the lens of history so that we can properly evaluate whether we should believe people without evidence. It's interesting that so many people were rabid fans of Lou Alzando. Well, it's been 8 years, right? 7 or 8 years. Hasn't proven a single one of his claims. That's a pretty long time. And what about George Knapp? 30 years. And what about those claims? He knows exactly where the element 115 is, and someday he's going to dig it up. Sure, he knows where 100% smoking gun evidence and proof of alien visitation on Earth. And as money hungry as he is, he's never put that forth and sold that story. I call bull. I call bull. Sorry, not sorry. We have Ross Colthart, who has claimed that he knows where an alien spaceship is on Earth, but he can't tell us. Can't tell us, right? And what about all you people that want disclosure? Looks to me like the people that are withholding disclosure are the people that are supposed to be the big promoters of disclosure. Why are they holding back on the evidence if they have any? Could it be because it's all a grift? Sometimes a grift is just a grift, friends. And that's where I'm at with this. But we are going to continue some coverage on this. I thought it important to give you a detailed history of some of the claims that all these other people that are promoting this guy Grush have made in the past. Isn't it important that they never prove anything? That they never come with the evidence that they promise they have when they do the money grabs? They can all grab the money, and then it comes time, it's like it's time to pay the piper. You said you had evidence. In some cases, people claim they have conclusive proof. George Knapp and Ross Colthart are claiming they have smoking gun evidence and proof of aliens. Why won't they just throw it down and say, there's the proof, bitches, disclosure's here? Could it be because they are manipulating you? And more importantly, they are manipulating the wallets of everyone that they can. And remember, you don't need to pay them money directly or buy a book or buy a documentary for them to profit. We live in an attention-based economy. What does that mean? If you watch a video with one of those guys, they make money. If you click on a video, click on a story on a blog involving those guys, the profit is absolutely ridiculous. The UFO community is not a community. It is a profit source. That's what it is. It is a source of profit. The so-called UFO community is not a community. Sometimes I truly believe that it is a pool of victims for less than ethical, less than scrupulous people to take advantage of in order to enrich themselves. And I'm just here to tell you that if you've gotten rich selling lies to, in some cases, very weak-minded, very, very vulnerable people who desperately want to believe, then I have no respect for anybody who's gotten rich by selling lies. And let's be clear, the lies by omission that all of these people use to make the grift work is intentional, in my opinion. They're not doing that by accident. It's a grift. And in order to make the grift work, you just leave out all the information that the story is likely fake. Then you grab all the money, and then you just slink away when the big letdown comes. This is how I have observed an incredible amount of this work over decades now. And if I could do it all again, I would take every bit of time back for every book I've read, every documentary I sat through, every blog post, website I've read, forums I've participated in. I would take all of that time back and I would do something more meaningful with every minute of that time, because you too can waste decades of your life chasing the carrot. You too can waste decades of your life, trying to catch that can that these people keep kicking. If you're looking for truth, people who are proven deceivers of men is not a good place to look, my friends. And that's where we're at, and that's where we find ourselves. Now I'll take some comments and questions from the live chat. Matt G is here and says, it's straight up for entertainment. Yeah, but a lot of people are here for answers. If I want to be entertained, I can watch Star Wars, or science fiction. By the way, that Ahsoka looks great. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Mandalorian. I'm looking forward to if there's going to be another Star Trek Picard or related Star Trek Picard series. People are talking about Generations. I'm looking forward to some comic book movies and the reforming of the DC universe and the continuation, I hope, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If I want to be entertained, I'm willing to go to fictional sources. But people are not presenting this as fiction. They're presenting this as true, but they never prove it. And that's where we're at, and that's where we find ourselves. Yes, Bob hid the 115 in George Knapp's freezer. Mike Rotunda says, let's just say it, stupid people. I like to say vulnerable people. You want to believe in aliens, but you don't. But you don't believe in Jesus. That's the problem. Dark forces are in a lot more things than UFOs. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Ian says deceivers of men. Yeah, absolutely. Dan Prospero is here and says false disclosure, government gets more military funding, and these shills will join the ranks of Dr. Greer. Yeah, what's going to happen when this whole thing comes crashing down? I'm telling you, they're all going to do the Cosmic Con shuffle. They're all going to take like a year off, and then they'll all be back with brand new fake stories that they equally won't prove. But this is, I thought you couldn't get worse or better than Ross Colthart and Dr. Gary Nolan's big bluff. Remember? Conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And they had no evidence, nothing. I thought they couldn't possibly bluff bigger than this. They're wasting Congress's time with this guy. Where is the evidence? Where is the proof? I don't understand. What are they going to do if they don't come through with the proof, dude? That's why I will say, like, 1% of me thinks there must be some kind of smoking gun evidence or proof, or these people wouldn't be so adamant pushing this grift cart up the grift hill here. Like, come on, they got to have something. If all they have is more people telling stories and no evidence or proof, this is going to be a real shit show. Mark Tirana says, I don't regret the time I've wasted. It's been interesting to say the least. Yeah, I guess it was interesting, right? Ganja73 says, your hair is growing out, Stephen. It looks great. Thank you. And my wife has just requested that I let it grow in just a little bit longer and then just get it trimmed up and leave it this length. I think she prefers it around this length. Too short before, too long before the big chopping off. So, guys, just do what your wife wants, because she's going to get whatever she wants anyway, right? She'll just keep nagging me until, I might get through 6 more haircuts that she doesn't like before I just do what she wanted and have a lot more peace in my life. So I'm just going to listen to my wife this time, find somebody to just trim it up and, shape it up so that it's a little more, orderly or whatever. Trim it up. Yeah, I'm going to keep it that way. Victor Wag, I believe in JC, Jeremy Corbell. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Taxpayer says, put 115 in the hole, energy comes out the other hole. Yep, you're right. Fireflies in the Lighthouse says, we can get them on federal wire fraud charges. That's the best strategy, I think. Who knows? I've been going down the UFO rabbit hole since I've been a teenager. I'm in my 40s and we never get any hard evidence. Yes, and that's what I'm talking about, Matt G. We have to view all of this through the lens of history. History is our greatest teacher, after all. By the way, I did want to mention, I want to throw a tomato at them, says Bobby Broadway. And thanks, by the way, for being a member, and thanks to all of our kind and generous members. We thank all of you. It's so rare. They're just using it to make China and Russia fear what we have. Yeah, that's what a lot of people believe. At least you got hair. I got one hairstyle, shaved head. Hey, I'll get there. My widow's peaks are getting bigger and bigger. They're going to be back behind my ears. But I will say that so many of my friends that I grew up with went bald already. That every day is a gift. Every day I still got hair on the top of my head. I'm like, all right, it's getting thinner. The widow's peaks are moving back, but I'm still in the game, And besides that, Matt, it's good to have dignity. You know what I don't like? Guys who wear rugs or do a sweep over or comb over or any of that shit. Like, if you're really going bald, just shave your head and have some goddamn dignity and don't look ridiculous trying to, I had another friend, he got like some kind of weave and like half his hair on the top of his head was real, but the other half was like a weave and it looked terrible. And like, nobody wanted to tell him. I told him, like, shit, dude, that shit looks terrible. Get that cut off of your head and shave your head. Have some dignity. All right. Amy Collins is here and says 35 years of following here and some lights in the sky here and there. Nothing that proves anything to be ET. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the boat we're in. But thank you, Amy Collins, longtime show supporter. Good to see you here. Yeah, you can wear a hat, but I don't like the guys that wear a hat or that bandana head wrap and pretend they still have hair on the top of their head, but they always wear that so you know they're bald. I just, I hope that if I start going bald, I just have the dignity to just shave my head. But the genetics look pretty good because most of the older men in my family that I remember still had hair when they died. So, and I mean a pretty good head of hair like this, We'll see what happens. Oh, yeah, I wanted to also be sure to mention we see some new lights. I finally got the smoke effect back. When we first started our show, I had these lights, that projected a smoke-like effect that I loved for the show because it reminded me of Unsolved Mysteries. That fog and all I need is a trench coat, right? And the dun, 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 better music, right? But these are some of the new lights from the new set. I'm hopeful that we'll get the new set. I just fought with some stuff that was mounted on the ceiling all day. Slow, steady progress. We'll get it done. And also, Mr. Ian has been busily working on some of these AI projects. And I'm happy to say that some of these AI systems that we are going to be employing with our show here are really starting to come into their own and become actually usable for use case scenarios. For example, I have a new album that's 49 or 50 minutes long. And I told Mr. Ian, get this AI to just make this dark, scary nightmare scape for 49 minutes. And he's been at it for a week, but he finally figured it out. And it is ridiculous, trippy. It is like riding through a nightmare that someone is having in real time. And tonight, to close out the show, I'll share a preview of that with all of you. Now, we'll be broadcasting the 49-minute version this coming weekend. We're going to do a Saturday night premiere. The music album is called A Very Dark Place. It's another album by me, Steve Cambion, in the Purge series. This will be the 7th album in that series of albums. And I think it's truly artistic and groundbreaking. We've got an incredible AI-generated video while you listen to the music for the whole 49 minutes. And I've got a low-quality render to share with you tonight. In other words, this is just the rough. Hasn't been upscaled or whatever. He's run a new, better version, a higher quality version of what I'll be sharing with you tonight. We'll be posting that for Patreon members and to channel members in the next couple of days. And this Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing a premiere for that new album. We want to thank Mr. Ian. He is the AI whisperer. I am pretty good with these things. He's better than me. And plus, he's got a great rig. I believe that the total render of 49 minutes, even the rough version, took something like 39 hours of computing time. And he's got a ridiculous computer with like 3 video cards and a great up-to-date processor and gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs of RAM. And it still took 39 hours to render the 49-minute animated video. I want to thank him, and boy, I can't wait to bring you. There's so many new tools coming online for us now. We're going to embrace some of these AI technologies that are helpful to us content creators, so that we could create new, better, and more content for you. That's kind of where I'm at. So. We're going to wrap things up here, but don't go anywhere after the goodbye bumper. Get your good night messages ready and get ready to experience a small piece of my new album, A Very Dark Place. And it just so happens that the single that I'm going to share with you tonight is the title track to the album, A Very Dark Place. So we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. We want to thank you, kind and generous Patreon supporters, you channel members, you Twitch subscribers, YouTube super chat, super thanks people. Oh, geez, that reminds me. I missed two, didn't I? I'm so sorry. 1 second. Let me see if I can't find those. I remembered that I saw them, and I almost left those out. So I apologize. Always feel free if I miss a super chat to say, "Hey, you missed my super chat." We read every single super chat and thank those people for their kindness, generosity, and support of the show. If I can't do it through the chat, I'll share. Wingback chair. Bobby Broadstone. Okay, we got him. We want to thank Trolley Troll for a kind and generous $5 super chat, who says it would be more, but I probably have to buy a new phone now. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but we thank you for two things: being a member and for throwing $5 in the hat. Longtime show supporter Trolley Troll. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Trolley Troll's a member. He throws $5 in our hat every month to help us praise the cash, and he throws a little extra. Hey, I hope you get a new phone. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. And Bobby Broadway wants a wingback chair. And thank you, longtime show supporter Bobby Broadway, for your kindness, generosity, and support. I'm gonna look into it, because so far I think I'm up to $15 for this wingback chair, and I don't even really know what that is. We're gonna have to look it up. And if I can find one and it's something I would want to sit in during the show, I would be happy to do that for you. Bobby Broadway, longtime show supporter. Thanks for always helping us to praise the cash. Much, much appreciated. And we have Keith with a kind and generous $4.99 super chat and no message. But we thank you, Keith, for your kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. And it warms my heart that people all over the world from all different countries and languages and money types, everybody is so generous with helping us to praise the cash that we can't help but be humbled. You guys give me an attitude of gratitude. Thank you so much for all your kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. So I hope that we have given you a good and thorough understanding and education into the history of these people who are pushing, promoting, and in many cases profiting from the stories of Dave Grusch. Will this turn out like all the other stories they pushed, over promoted, some would say over sensationalized, and many would say over profited from? Or is this time it's going to be different? This time we're going to get that disclosure. This time it won't be kick the can. It won't be chase the carrot. This time there's going to be evidence. Or is this just another cycle through the history of the UFO grift? Overpromise, underdeliver, big letdown. Are we in for a big letdown? Let me know what you think in the comments, or let me know what you think in the live chat. And get those wonderful goodbye messages ready. We are going to bounce on out of here. Still more questions than answers, but that's life, says Matt G. I agree. Like in Masterpiece Theater back in the day. All right, I'll look it up. Bobby Broadway has declared himself leader of all the stoners. I will allow that, Bobby Broadway. Yes, you can be. Mr. Ian says we're here to kick butt and read evidence, and they don't have any evidence. Yeah, I'm here to chew gum and look at their evidence, but they're out of evidence. Imagine that. So we have done our due diligence. Now, we're going to be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please join us in the live chat tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you at our next live show. And please do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos on your social media. It really does help. Also, if you have time, maybe not tonight, but another time, tomorrow while you're driving, while you're working, while you're doing something, come back and watch one more. It really does help, because apparently when YouTube sees you returning for another dose, they go, he must make good content. People are coming back for more. So we'll crank up his recommends. And that really, really does help us. We will be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've got kind of a fun show for you tomorrow night. But I'm sure that we will be here tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you'll be here with us. We thank all of you, including all you fine and wonderful people in the live chat. We'll be back with more for you tomorrow night. But for now, that's all I got for you, folks. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you. Okay, friends, just popping back on. We always try to read and thank every single person that sends a super chat during our live broadcast. So Phoenix Knight with a late entry. Sorry, I didn't see that before we try to bounce on out of here. But I'm happy to jump back on, and thank you, Phoenix Knight, for kind of generous $5 Australian super chat. Says, after watching the aviary documentary by Digital Vortex, yeah, we're going to have him on as a guest. I think he did a great job with that. I am pretty convinced that all of this disclosure is a psyop and not simply a scam. Yeah, I mean, the jury's still out, but I am very well versed in the history of the aviary, and that may have been sort of the precursor to all of this disclosure stuff that we are seeing. You know, it just keeps cycling and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And some of us have been here long enough to go, that story wasn't true the first 3 times people were selling it, you know? But it is what it is. Thank you, Phoenix Knight, for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. Now we will really bounce out of here. 1 second here. I have to figure out how to do this. I haven't done this in a long time. Okay, I'll be sharing a video file. Apparently it was too big to just put in as a bumper. So we'll be back tomorrow night, friends, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much for everybody being here. I'll be back tomorrow night with more exciting things to share, and I hope you will be here with me. Until next time, friends, I will leave you with the song from our upcoming album. We're going to be doing the world premiere of this Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, including the full 49-minute rendered animation. That's just incredible. Wanted to give you a quick taste. Thanks to Mr. Ian. We'll be back tomorrow night, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Canby, and good night, and God bless all of you. you.